Try to keep my dumb comments to myself.
We are recording, so now I will send us the videos. So we just make sure that we're getting audio. Yeah, we're getting audio. So apologies to the Kayfabers if you're hearing like little boops and bops and dings and things from the desktop.
That's so interesting to see the sound meter on that mic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good mic. Like I kind of look forward to hearing a little bit of the stream to see how much warmer it is and stuff.
Yeah, if it has a little more length that you can get away from it, could be really good too with like shoot interviews and things.
It's funny because I was thinking that like with the advancement of mics, like is it different? Or if you got to be closer,
yeah, that's probably more likely.
Yeah. All right, so I am very close to.
It amazes me that the amount of like how brown.
Totally.
Because it's funny to think if you're looking at Dark Knight. I remember opening Dark Knight whenever I was first got it, and just being like, it was so gray looking compared to every comic I had ever seen.
Yeah.
And I never think of that as like that's the reason all of our comics are brown and gray. And it makes me wonder, like, is that the reason?
Yeah.
Do people want brown and gray comics?
Yeah, that's the thing about fighting nature, right? Like when we have Gary Groth on the actual channel saying that people don't want comics journalism.
Yeah, don't want to pay for it. I worry about that with like real journalism too. Like it's bad to not have it in comics, but like to have none of it anywhere.
Let me tell you, man, I was reading some reviews on like reputable websites and things, and the terrible grammar and misspellings in like New York Times reviews and things. Like it is not a good thing.
No, there's obviously not a lot of money there right now, or ever again probably. I think once the money leaves, it doesn't come back.
You gotta figure out some scam.
It is interesting. There was a little bit of I can remember podcasts that would do like kind of in-depth reporting on a particular subject, and they might run X amount of episodes.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that was kind of interesting, but it does become like if you're a journalist, if you're really like passionate about that, like we are, say, making comics, you do have to figure out that part now. Like those people have to figure out how to get paid.
Exactly.
And they have to figure out how to navigate, whatever the normal difficulties of that job is, like on top of you've got to run it as a business now too. And they have to figure out how to navigate.
It's true. And listen, we didn't get into comics to become YouTubers.
Right.
But it just turns out that it helps push our books.
Yeah.
It's the old thesis of our, what do you call it, man? Our keynote, man. Adapt or die.
Right. Being like one of the things this channel I feel like has become or is becoming is that nexus point of just like comics coming from a lot of different directions, from the past, from self-publishers, from mainstream publishers, from book sellers. It's really an interesting way to see comics now.
Do you got a fresh water?
No, I don't.
Let me hook you up.
It kind of blows my mind, that part. That's another one of those somewhat unanticipated consequences.
Yeah.
Hey, grab that Dark Knight if it's handy.
Okay, yeah, we'll do.
Thank you. Man, I almost said good morning, everybody, but it is officially afternoon time.
I don't know about you,
late
but
recording
on
today.
These kind of days, I actually allow myself to get a full night's sleep.
Yeah.
And I feel more refreshed and good and better than I do on a typical stream.
Well, that's good. I always think of this image as like the when I think of Dark Knight.
Yeah.
These are the images I think of where it is just the grayest city you can imagine.
I really had to grow into that, man. Like I got this because it was so mentioned by Rob and Todd and stuff. And when I got it, I'm like, it looks like they're coloring this shit with colored pencils. Like I'm all about Steve Olive. What are they doing? They're coloring this with colored pencils. And there's that one scene where the politicians are in like a sauna and there's almost no color.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and they didn't even color this one. What the fuck? And you know what that is, man. Like in my defense, after this comes out, there's all that Innovation Comics and all these like Bill Sienkiewicz light comics, and I got a lot of those, and they did not have the artistry of this. So to just see brushstrokes and things, I'm just like, oh, not another one of these brushstroke, airbrush, pebbly, fucking separated comics.
Yeah, when you get this stuff makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I was also thinking about this because you see Watchmen come up, of course. You know, it's sort of like the 1 and 2, depending on the order you want to put them in.
Right.
I'm under the impression this far outsold Watchmen initially.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it got way more of a push. You could sell... I mean, it's Batman
like,
first
whenever
off.
it comes to, like, the bookstore market, this was the DC comic that opened that door, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 1,000%. And it makes sense, man. Like, are you going to sell a bunch of comics of nonsense characters that nobody knows about, or are you going to do Batman? But it wasn't Watchmen that got... you know, what, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 ads in Playboy magazine. Like, that's the thing. They really pushed it. They did an experiment. They really pushed a comic. It did really well, and they never did it again. We don't even have to show that number 2 right now. Right here.
That's cool with the chains and logo.
Yeah,
That worked out pretty well.
Shouts to Justin.
Also, dude, this is going to be a thumbnail. We're going to get
Some more goats.
A double dip out of this one.
2 bites of the apple.
That's an insane ad.
The Got Milk stuff was almost vulgar.
Yes, yeah, it was. I cannot believe that this book is over 20 years old.
I have things to say about that. I can't wait to record.
It's interesting because that and Invincible are almost same release. Invincible is just like months within months of that.
Interesting.
I think that's correct. I think it's 2003.
I'll take your word.
All right. Did you lock that?
I did. Is it comfortable for you? Because, like, you gotta... It's not...
Yeah, I'm pretty good with that.
Okay. Oh, why did I do that? Good to go?
Yeah.
All right.
Hello and welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piscor.
First up, want to remind everybody that we do have a Cartoonist Kayfabe Patreon out there now. 3 different levels will get you access to our videos ahead of everybody else. And if you are a King Kayfaber level, you can sit in on our recording sessions, give us some back and forth on upcoming interviews that we do, and generally just get to see everything before anybody else. So check out our Patreon, see what level works for you. We are working Cartoonist. You can see our bibliography here. Best way to support Cartoonist Kayfabe is to buy our books. You see Ed Piscor's WYSIWYG, X-Men Grand Design, Hip Hop Family Tree. Just announced the Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus. Available for pre-order now, 140 extra pages. So perfect for a gift, perfect for yourself. And you may want to pre-order that one sooner rather than later. And up next is Red Room 3rd season starting up, Crypto Killers. This one will be out in a couple of months, but you can pre-order the first 2 issues now. Here is a preview of those covers. The traditional cover by Ed Piscor. There's a sketch cover coming out in issue number 1, which should be make for a lot of fun on the social media. Peach Momoko's cover, looking very sharp. We're going to get more into that in the coming weeks, but a beautiful design by her as always. This is my homage cover to Rob Liefeld's Youngblood number 1, one of those very important creator-owned comic books for me. And Crypto Killers number 1 variant by Ed Piscor. Admire the logo interaction. Always a fan of that design.
Shouts to Justin.
Very nice.
What do you have coming out, Jimmy?
For me, it is time for next Street Angel books. So Street Angel Princess of Poverty will be out later this year from Image Comics. This pairs perfectly with Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive. If you get Princess of Poverty and Deadliest Girl Alive, you will have all of the Street Angel comics that I have done so far. So pre-order that one wherever you buy books. Hulk Grand Design is out and about everywhere now, as is the Plain Janes. So pick those up as well. But we are here today, Ed, to actually dive into a modern classic, a big historical book here. This is the first issue of Jim Lee drawing Batman. So what we have going on is, first, DC buys Wildstorm in the late 90s. We get to the early 2000s here. You see a date here in the artwork of 2001. This is actually a 2002 release, so maybe got some lead time. But Jim Lee comes on board a Batman, and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
This is whenever I was working a day job and reading all the comic websites much more than I was reading the comics, especially the Marvel DC output. And this just dominated the news cycle. You know, Jim Lee hadn't drawn any comics regularly for some time period, had never drawn any real DC comics. I think he did a Batman cover on black and white.
Yeah.
But to have Jim Lee, one of the biggest selling, at least Marvel DC artists in history, show up at the competition after Image, and he's going to take over their top character, Batman, for a year-long run. This, as you can imagine, a lot of news. A lot of people were interested in this one. And, you know, that's that time period in the early 2000s. And we talk so much about 90s comics, but that early 2000 is really the nadir point. Like, that is really when comics were almost hopeless.
Yeah.
They were selling terribly. Like, it really seemed like, we're done. Like, this is over. So whenever something like this happened, like, this felt like a changing tide. You know, there were a couple of those moments within Marvel and DC. Obviously, Quesada pumped a lot of that into Marvel with some interesting creative teams coming through. But this was kind of like the DC counterpunch of that. And I remember it making quite an impact.
Yeah, for sure. But a lot of time has passed since then, right?
Over 20 years. I can't believe this is over 20 years ago. This feels like a new comic to me.
It's funny how it works just personally, too, because first impressions are real impressions, you know, and you can't escape that sometimes. So to keep it kayfabe, right? Jim Lee as DC guy is to me like Jim Ross is to WWF guy. Like, Jim Ross is always the WCW color commentator in my mind. Jerry Lawler is always the guy I read about in magazines, but had no idea what the fuck he was about. He's not, you know, the guy who wears a crown on WWF pay-per-views and shit. And, like, Jim Lee is always Punisher X-Men dude to me, you know? Public Enemy, Terminator X is always the DJ. He hasn't been a DJ in, like, 30 years. In fact, the guy who's the DJ now has been their DJ longer than Terminator X has.
I was going to say, he's had a couple of Batman runs, Superman runs.
Did he
He's done
finish
enough
any of
comics
them?
now. He's probably drawn more Batman than he has any other character at this point.
Yeah, it's just, you know what it is? The bloom was off the rose at this point for me. I was well done.
I did not buy any of these at the time. This is something I bought after the fact, and honestly, after we started Kayfabe, I was like, this will be a great comic to look at. But I was out too, you know, like, Jim Lee was never totally my guy, and that's not to just slam on Jim Lee. I think that's more of a personal taste than anything else. But, like, seeing this, I'm excited to go through it. Let's put it that way. And, you know, right away you can see Scott Williams getting the team back together. You know, the inker that I certainly associate when I think of Jim Lee the most, Scott Williams. So bringing the team together, Jeff Loeb rounding that out, who has done a lot of Batman work.
He was such a darling, too, of those, like, Image guys. Like, the Image guys, like, they were like, you know, we need somebody who's like our Alan Moore, our Frank Miller. Well, Jeff Loeb works in TV, man. He must be great. So they would get him on the mix, man. And what I will say, Jim Lee is definitely going for it.
Yes.
He's trying hard. He's actually drawn some backgrounds, which is reasonably atypical.
Not a great lock, though. That's a rough excuse for a lock.
And look at how the lock fucking blends in with the background. So we could talk shit on the color all day.
Also, like, yeah, this is really dumb. This is the most nitpicking stuff. But this lock looks like it's 100 years old.
Yeah, from 1800s.
And that, like, you could probably pick that with a bobby pin.
Totally.
There's not a lot of technology in that lock. I feel like Batman ought to kick it off, would be a little more hardcore.
He's just showing off his belt gimmicks.
Here's the other thing that surprised me going through this, is how monochromatic it is. And we're getting a tiny bit of green here, which makes sense because Killer Croc, not to spoil this 20-plus-year-old book for anyone, is going to be our bad guy. So you get a little bit of green here, supposedly, you know, being your night vision, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's still that monochromatic, and it's extremely desaturated. One thing I like in this spread, I feel like if you're going to have, like, high-tech, I don't know if he's supposed to have night vision on or something.
Yeah, some Google Glass.
But I feel like this works really well, and I'm very glad that we don't get an explanation of, like, what all the tech is that we're seeing.
Well, Brendan Choi didn't write this, Jimmy. This is Jeff Loeb,
Good choice, Jeff.
Who
How about
wrote
that?
it. And look at the spread on the camera. You can't tell what anything is.
You know what? I felt that right away. Like, I looked at this panel and looked at this panel, and I'm like, is that some sort of a knife? Does he have a knife of some sort in his hand?
Shiv.
It took me a long time to realize that was a lock. Like, I was trying to figure out what exactly is going on here. The idea of making the lock and the door the same exact color of gray.
Real dumb.
I don't know about that one. But nevertheless, he goes in, a bunch of mercenaries are holding this kid, and you get a little bit of call-outs of who these characters are. Spider Hancock, Carlos Valdez. filling space. You know, it may not be Brandon Choi's style, but it still feels
It's Jeff
like
Loeb style.
You know, I don't know that it added a lot to the story, but it maybe illustrates Batman is a badass. Goes in and rescues this kid that had been kidnapped. You know, he's a son. He's being held for $10 million ransom, and that's what we get out of these first couple of pages is just Batman going in and getting this kid out. And this is what we all came for, everybody. And by that I mean came for. Where's our Folio man here? Richard Starkin's letters. Alex Sinclair, another one of the Wildstorm guys.
Yeah, and he's the guy that colors all the shit, and he colors
exactly.
it all monochromatic. And
let's look into that more. Bob Schreck on edit's worth noting, longtime editor, and there's a special thanks to Mark Chiarello, and I wonder what his involvement is. If he somehow behind the scenes brought this together, suggested this, how this all went.
I bet he's like, can you take my name off that book, please?
I don't know, man. If he could get some residuals for it, I bet he wouldn't say that. But when I'm looking at this, and like the whole book is kind of this palette, which, look, I'm calling that gray, and I often rail against gray and brown as the coloring schemes, but to me it's so desaturated, like it's all moving towards gray, and I thought, where is this, why do it this way? I swear it comes down to, this is Dark Knight Returns color palette. You know, like I remembered when I read Dark Knight Returns, it was pretty early on in my reading, and I can remember thinking like, it's gray.
Yeah.
You know, it's and it works. This was really different. When everything was 4-color, 64-color palette.
Very saturated.
This was very, very different.
And it allowed space for the superhero to shine.
Right.
You know, especially Robin. Look at that yellow. It pops so much.
Totally. But by and large,
it's artistic choice. This is artistic choice.
You know, a lot of it is this stuff. It's very desaturated, and I think that you can see that same color palette on our Batman.
Yeah, like Jim Lee.
I don't think that's an accident.
Lots of financial success in the game, lots of opportunity. He would love professional respect and for people to dig his work in the same. Like he's chasing Frank Miller. He's been chasing Frank Miller for the better part of his career. But he doesn't have it. He's too superficial. It's too much about the glitz.
I was looking at this panel. It's pretty neat. We're getting Batman's reflection in the kid's glasses, and behind him, some kind of threat coming up.
Yeah.
That's a good panel. A lot of work going on in that one. And the payoff, 2-page spread of a very mutated Killer Croc coming in. And this feels like, beyond Jim Lee, it feels like you're bringing a Marvel aesthetic to a DC character. Mm-hmm. This is not Jim Aparo Batman anymore, or Killer Croc. Like, these are gigantic, muscle-bound 80s WWF era. They're on the gas.
Oh, totally. And DC could have used that, a little infusion of that at the time, because they've always been kind of like less hip. Even if they would have, the perennial books and stuff like that, they're almost never as cool as the Marvel energy, and that reflected the back offices.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Shooter would talk about you could not, it was like IBM. You have to have starched collars and ties to even get through the door.
Yeah, so Batman is fighting this gigantic monster, and it's a tough fight. This is a bigger Killer Croc than he's used to, but that's all right. Batman has all kind of tricks, throws some sort of device on his neck that is going to help Batman considerably, get some digital effects just to show us exactly how effective that is, and get into your dog collar match.
Greg Valentine versus Roddy Piper.
Absolutely.
Man,
boy, a lot of ads through here, isn't
making some ad dollars.
Got to make money where you can. Beats Killer Croc, so that's your little set piece for this particular issue. Comes out, talks to some of the FBI who were handling this ransom, and Batman's not satisfied, though. Doesn't think Killer Croc is actually the guy behind this, which I think turns out to be the big driving force behind Hush, because even the reveal at the end of this issue I don't think is...
It's not our guy.
The person behind it, ultimately. Like that coloring effect here. You see like open line art. The other thing I remember from this time period, there was so much Batman art, like sketchbook kind of stuff, and I think it was probably released as like Jim Lee, figuring out his Batman, and a lot of it was Jim Lee inking it, just be drawings.
Yeah.
And like white media and different approaches to hatching, it all looked amazing. And I remember it was like, when this came out, I thought, why doesn't he take those chances on the page?
He just won't do it. You take a look at his Twitch, or there's voluminous amounts of how to draw videos that Jim Lee's been doing. They're on YouTube. You could pick your platform, and he does all that stuff. He makes smoke with whiteout, and he does this stuff. But he just, his idea of comics is like polish and having all this stuff super tight, and that's what Scott Williams has always done for him.
Yes, and the color team. It gives it this polish, which is crazy because if you see his pencils, they're so tight to begin with. You would think like that's the last guy that needs polish on polish.
His pencils are great because like it's more polished than you could even imagine. Because if you see him do it, it's a very maddening process where he basically draws every page a couple of times. So like he draws it and then he erases it all.
Draws in blue line.
Inks it again.
I remember reading about it in the early 90s, and it was like a wild process.
You could watch it.
We see Catwoman zip by behind the FBI people as Batman's thinking, somebody else did this. This isn't just Killer Croc. I like this bit of storytelling. I feel like it's pretty slick, and Batman leaves the scene and follows her. And I mostly like Jim Lee's Catwoman. Every now and then, like, you'll see her face and they'll have little dashes on it that resemble whiskers. I think that's a cool choice. Your DeLuca effect, almost invisible.
Can't even tell, man.
Yeah. Even a little Watchmen elements with, like, blimps floating by on your city.
That's also Batman the Animated Series would have dirigibles and stuff, because it's this Art Deco landscape, and that includes Zeppelins and things.
I like these aerial shots, like the perspective from the top of the buildings is pretty nice.
That's what I'm saying. He's really, he's going for it, man. He's really trying hard.
And Batman's line gets cut. Not a good thing. Man, I can't believe the ads. I didn't even notice them that much whenever I was reading this issue this week. But we see Batman fall down and could have been hurt. Like, guy's up there pretty high. He's above all these buildings, man, and he goes all the way to the ground. Do you see Barry Windsor-Smith in this face?
For sure.
Yeah, that's what I was noticing whenever I first read this too.
Superhero sex is the fight scene.
Yeah.
Frank Miller established that in that Holy Terror joint.
That's very well said.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before, and that is so accurate. Falling into like Spawn territory here. we got our homeless people descending on Bruce Wayne. Imagine that in a story now in like 2023.
Right.
You might have something there. Catwoman gets off unscathed. You can see some of those marks on her face that I'm talking about. Just a couple of dashed lines, enough to imply the whiskers. And this is your Darwin Cook era Catwoman. This is the redesigned Catwoman costume, but then sent through the Jim Lee Wildstorm filter.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like you do something like that, and then you get anointed by Jim Lee. It's like he's acknowledging that, yeah, that's fucking dope.
It is, man. That's one we'll look at some point. And here we go. Let's see who's behind all this. Poison Ivy.
I watched a little bit of that Twilight version of the Batman movie, with Team Edward. It was
I forgot about that one.
As Batman on the airplane on the way back from Japan, and they do that thing where they get a handful of villains in there. You get to see what a penguin looks like. You get to see what a scarecrow looks like and shit like that. And that's what this kind of is, man. We get to see Jim Lee draw a various amount of classic villains, because I guess Hush is that dude with the, it's the unknown soldier. It's the guy with the bandages all over the face or something. Ain't that right?
I think it's isn't it Jason Todd?
I don't know anything. I don't read this horse shit.
It turns out the fans did vote for Jason Todd to survive.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I think that's what happens. But like to have him do like the Rogues Gallery, that's exactly what you should be doing.
Totally.
I'd be mad if it was like, I'm going to make up a Doomsday kind of character and then that's the only one I'm going to draw. Like, this is what you want to do. Like, you get a heavy hitter like Jim Lee to show up, let him just run through the lineup.
Yeah, I want to see what his Two-Face looks like.
Yeah, redesign the whole Rogues Gallery, and let's see if we can sell some comics with this, because we're not doing it any other way. So that's it for issue 1. Not bad. You get a couple of page turns that are sort of like the cliffhanger, like what is Poison Ivy's thing. As I said, I don't think she's the big person here. It's advertised as a 12-part storyline from the get-go. So this really was like, go tell your comic shops to pull Batman for you. You got a reason to subscribe. But December 2002, and look at this. Talking about ads.
Who's that young man?
Unbelievable. Tom Brady is sort of still in sports headlines. Here we are 20 plus years later.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I was shocked. This was the most surprising part of the book for me, was closing the book and being like, you got to be kidding me. Is this super old or not?
Maybe it's because he drinks milk, man.
I was thinking about that too. I'd like to hear the TB12 review of milk. I bet you he's not drinking milk in 20 years.
I want to see Shaq and Charles Barkley take this exact ad and see what kind of comments they make about it.
That's funny.
Do you remember the old Got Milk ads from when we were kids, where it'd be this like little girl standing next to like her future crush, and who would be like maybe like a man, like a college age boy, but she'd be a little girl, and she's like, "You never look at me because I don't drink milk." And then she's like, it's like 3 stages of age. You remember those, man?
No, I don't.
Oh, they're classic. There was one.
Not surprised those are pulled from my memory.
In Living Color did the greatest parody where it was like they did Marsha Warfield, the lady from Night Court, the big brute fucking bailiff, and it's like a little kid, then like a minute, and then it becomes Keenan Ivory Wayne's dressed up like Marsha Warfield.
That's real funny. Very appropriate.
Do you have the rest of Hush?
No.
Okay.
Why, did you want to read the whole thing?
I mean, this doesn't compel me to. Like, I'm not excited to, but I don't know shit about it. And I had a decent enough time going through this. It's reasonably forgettable.
You know what? Yeah, I agree with all of that, but there was nothing offensive to reading this.
No,
you know how, like,
it's just a comic.
There's a lot of comics we read where, like, I'm kind of angry at the end.
Sure, yeah.
I didn't feel any of that. This all worked for me, and like I said, there are a couple of those moments, you see a character, Catwoman, scoot by in the back, kind of off-center. I like those details, so I am kind of curious to check out more of it, but I don't know exactly whether I will or when or how.
We'll file it in the playlist. All sizzle, no steak. Good to go? Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new videos are available. And the King Kayfabers, they get access to these videos before anybody else because they are our biggest supporters on Patreon. Hit our link in the description below to join that Patreon and get everything ahead of time. Jimmy, what books you have out there, man?
The Plain Janes, Hulk Grand Design, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive are out there right now. Street Angel, Princess of Poverty is coming later this spring. You can pre-order that one right now from Image Comics, and you can join me on patreon.com/JimRugg to see a lot more of my art. See, my new comics are going to be starting up there in April, and download out-of-print zines and mini comics from there.
The Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus is the book of 2023. Get your pre-orders in right now. It's going to be 500 plus pages. It's going to have 140 pages that are not in the first 4 volumes. Scoop it up, pre-order that thing. I need that book to sing. But we are also soliciting. The new Red Room is forthcoming, and we're taking a look at the covers right here for issue number 1. Crypto Killers, Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit. Peach's cover, Jimmy's cover. I have a variant cover. There's a sketch cover. Put in your orders at your local comic shop for that right now because it's going to be in stores in May. 4 volumes Hip Hop Family Tree out on the stands, 3 volumes X-Men Grand Design, 2 Red Rooms, and WYSIWYG. Jimmy, what else do we have out there?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, stickers, and more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
All good ways to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Given those marching orders, we'll be on our way.
Read more comics. Would you like that? Don't you think that's right about the palette? It feels exactly like the same palette.
Yeah, I think you're on to something. It's so interesting because where they like advanced technology, but they don't have the artistry to like really do anything with it. Like, I don't know that Alex Sinclair's a painter or anything. Jim, if we got lots of time left over, man, we'll do that Spawn video.
Oh yeah.
We might need your phone to just like read some of those titles of like what they cite as the first appearance.
We should try to release that in some noisy fashion.
Yeah, because it calls into question CGC, the Key Collectors app. It calls all that stuff into question. It destroys all of that.
Yeah.
And CGC, you could find multiple CGCs where it'll be like Malibu Sun is the first appearance, and then this is the first appearance, that's the first appearance. So what's the first appearance, you motherfuckers? And we gotta think about what to call it, like a hotkey no one knows about. We're gonna call it breaking news. Breaking news, a key first appearance that nobody knows about. I'm excited about that. Like,
yeah, there needs to be the right title on that because it's not just the breaking news. Like, it's changing stuff. Like, a bunch of experts are wrong.
CGC is wrong. Like that's like CG. They're flat out wrong, and we can demonstrate it.
Yeah, I wonder what that is, because that is calling out. Like it is like the comic book experts lied to you.
In video games, about a month ago, there's a thing called WADA, which is like CGC for video games, and they had WADA sealed Castlevania Rondo of Blood from TurboGrafx that is a reproduction cart, but they didn't acknowledge it as a reproduction cart. They graded it like it was the original, and some dude on eBay was trying to sell it for like $3,000, and the people in the know knew, like YouTubers and shit. They were like, no, this is wrong. Look, this is pixelated. Like it's completely wrong. So the graders got it fucking completely wrong, and this dude might have bought it and is trying to flip it and shit. And it just called like WADA had to make statements and stuff. The store owner for the eBay store tried to cease and desist the YouTube guy, threatened suing him and shit like that. And the dude was like doubling down, like, no, man, how can you sue me? This is wrong, blah, blah, blah. WADA had to come out and say, like, yeah.
I just heard...
I can hear you. I'm just going to...
Yeah. Pull this up. I forget the comedian, but they had gone through several, like, defamation cases and said it's about 3 years to go through. Stuff that she was right and didn't lose, but also, like, hemorrhaging money to pay for 3 years worth of court cases.
Dude,
and she said that's about how long it takes to go through the system.
One of our good friends, I'm just not going to say it on the thing, but can afford anything, and was talking about people talking shit on him, like, defamatory things. And he was like, fuck it, I'm going to court, I'm going to do it. And his lawyers are like, yeah, you will win, but do you want to spend X amount of dollars to do that? And he's like, sometimes yes. Yeah, sometimes yes.
Yeah, we'll get into what book that is, you guys. It's something that we've talked about on the channel, to be honest. Like, this won't be the first time that we mention it, but it is one of those situations where it's like, I don't know, wrong's wrong. Like, it's surprising to see 30-year-old information that's just completely flat out wrong.
And my whole thing, Jimmy, was
how's this for being a King Kayfaber? You guys are throwing out requests, and I am answering. Yeah, this Peach cover, I think Ed mentioned in the live stream, Peach actually sent a video of her drawing this, which is very informative.
Yeah, we're gonna do like a commentary piece over top of it, and then look at our covers and art and stuff. But yeah, it got me thinking, like when we mentioned that stuff about the first appearances and things, we were so new. We might not have had 4,000 subscribers, so it wasn't enough to register.
Yeah.
But like now, it's plenty to register.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't mean to be too cryptic, but in case we don't get to record this, I kind of don't want to give it away.
No.
But also, like, the source really was early. Like, it's not like they had their peak followers either. So, you can kind of see how it... Man, I don't know.
I hope we record.
It should be a fun record. It should be a fun conversation.
If we don't do it this week, it's definitely one for next week. But I think we're on track to do it before.
Curious,
Peter Chung is going to be our guest.
Oh yeah. How awesome is that?
Peter Chung's going to be the guest. Let me put that in the chat.
Did you read that? Like, did you read the text in that one book?
It was just the soundtrack, dude. So I didn't care about it.
It was pretty cool. There was some really good stuff in it. I don't know if any of it is stuff to converse with Peter Chung about, except for the part of, like, the guy again and again says, like, the episode just showed up with nothing, no anything. Like, it was a blank canvas for him to work on in terms of the sound. And I'm real curious to hear Peter Chung talk about that, because I feel like that's a really important piece.
Yeah.
And like, did he have notes? Did he have a clear vision? Did he really go in and just go, I like this musician, and let's see what he does?
Yeah,
I'm excited to hear some of that.
I brought it up when we interviewed him, because to me it's part and parcel.
Yes.
Like you cannot have... Aeon Flux would feel wrong with a different soundtrack. Like just the tones, like you hear 1 second and it just makes you think Aeon Flux at this point. It's so intertwined.
Yeah, extremely distinct.
Good if you are.
Can you verify this is 2023? Oh, you know what? It has this. Yeah, okay. This is 2023. I'm sure of it.
Okay. Good to go.
Yeah.
So that's like a reprint or some shit.
Yeah, this is what do they call them? The
$1 books or something.
No, it isn't that. That's what I should have found. No shit.
It's all good.
Facsimile edition. So this would be like that thing that Larson made.
Okay. Good.
Yep. Hello and welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piscor.
Before we dive into this, I want to remind everybody that there is a Cartoonist Kayfabe Patreon now available. 3 different levels will get you access to our videos ahead of time. It will also, at the King Kayfaber level, get you access to our recording sessions where we talk about upcoming guests. We can discuss interview questions with you guys, and gives you first access to whatever books we're showing off. Sometimes those books are a little bit rare, and being first is the key to getting them. So check out our Patreon, see what level works for you, and support us there if you like. The other way to support Cartoonist Kayfabe is to buy our books. You see our bibliography here on the screen right now. Ed Piscor's Red Room, X-Men Grand Design, Hip Hop Family Tree, and WYSIWYG are his offerings. Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus just announced. Will be out in time for Christmas this year, but it's all the Hip Hop Family Tree comics plus 140 new pages. So you may want to pre-order that one right now. Red Room Crypto Killers is also coming out in the next couple of months, and you can pre-order this one right now. This is the cover for issue number 1 by Ed Piscor. This is the Peach Momoko variant, fresh off the easel. My variant, based on Youngblood #1, one of those creator-owned books that was very important to me. A Crypto Killers #1 sketch cover. People have been asking for the Red Room sketch covers, and there you go. And Ed Piscor's variant for Crypto Killers #1. So pre-order that one at your local comic shop now. My latest books, The Plain Janes, Hulk Grand Design, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive are out and available wherever you buy books. My next book, Street Angel Princess of Poverty. You can pre-order this one now. It'll be out in stores later this spring, also from Image Comics. And together with Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, makes up all of the Street Angel comics that I have created so far. So it'll complete your collection. Let your store know that you need that right now. All right, Ed. We are here to look at Invincible, one of Robert Kirkman's other significant comics and success stories from Image Comics, early days of Image Comics. Starts out really close to around the time of Walking Dead. This one is 2003, early 2003. The reason I mention that is we recently looked at Jim Lee's Batman, which is late 2002. So these are basically early 2000s superhero comics and coming at it from a couple of different directions. This is the facsimile edition. This is not actually the first issue, but a facsimile edition that was released recently, and I thought this could be a perfect one for us to take a look at here on Cartoonist Kayfabe. Your artist on the first arc is Cory Walker, and I mention that because, one, I like his art, but he's also a guy, if you notice, even from this beginning, a very clean line style for superhero comics. This is a style that I think has gone on to become very popular in terms of how does digital coloring and line work together. Cory Walker was one of the first guys that I noticed that seemed to figure this out. And I've enjoyed some time looking at his originals over the years, like at Heroes and things. So we'll have a pretty good time, I think, going through this one. And longtime colorist Bill Crabtree is on colors for this. And as a facsimile edition, you're basically seeing, probably the changes would be Indicia updated to reflect that it's not the actual #1 issue. But even the intro letters page, or I guess editorial from Robert Kirkman, is in here. So some fun stuff there. And open with a splash page. Thank you for doing a superhero comic that opens with a splash page.
I think that's the beauty of Invincible, is like take the great stuff of old superhero comics, all the stuff that worked, and update it with a new sensibility, because at this point superhero comics are far off the rails.
Yes.
It did nothing to save Marvel and DC style comics. Like they're still devolving into the subterranean.
And whenever I complain about not having a splash page, that's who I'm looking at.
Sure.
They're like summary pages. I get
That's
so
ridiculous.
mad whenever I pull a comic book off the wall, and it's like I'm holding comics in my hand, so I'm trying to flip with one hand. Page 1, just text, maybe some headshots or something.
Real dumb.
I get so angry.
I will say though that this style was very popular around this time. When I was in art school, so many people, and I don't know who the originator of this kind of style is. I don't know where it exactly comes from.
Hergé?
Yeah, right. but but this kind of like clean line, I don't even know how you call it. You kind of push the proportions a little bit, a deadline of sorts. A lot of kids that I went to art school with had this kind of a style.
When I was thinking about books this week, one of the books that I was going to do was Daredevil Ninja, which is the same kind of like, it's just a line. That's a really flat line. And it's the same deal where it was like, there was a battle between like ink lines and colorists going on at this time. And it still kind of rages today in some books. But I really think this was a line style that lent itself to digital coloring. It was almost like you colorists can go sick. Use all the brushes.
Crabtree's awesome too, man. He's probably one of Tom's best colorists, Tom Scioli. Like on Godland, they used numerous amounts of colorists. But Bill Crabtree, his portfolio is something that I pay attention to throughout sort of the history of comics the past couple decades, man. And he's just he can push his palettes to suit the artists in great ways.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff in this first 3-page sequence, and I love that. Let's open the book with some money shots. Let's see the hero, let's see some action, but you see the desaturated, almost gray that's so prevalent in digitally colored comics for some reason, contrasted with the colors of the superhero. So that's pretty good. And then also all these like cool blues, except for the explosion, gives you your excuse to pop some warmth in there. So very simple, not much going on. All we're seeing is this is a superhero who flew some guy with a bomb out in the middle of nowhere to blow up harmlessly. And now let's get into it 4 months ago. This also feels to me like, I wonder what Kirkman's writing process was for this, because there's a lot in this issue. I think it works pretty well. And he had been working, like we had met him probably before this, out on the out kind of on the comic scene.
Trying, man.
Yeah,
like the stories of him hounding Eric Larson to do a Super Patriot miniseries.
Which is something he and Cory Walker had done before this book. So one of the places you might have seen his work. And here's our hero sitting on the toilet. It's almost an Alan Moore transition. If I'm going to keep this up, I'm going to give myself a heart attack. If you keep that up, you're going to give yourself a heart attack. I think she thinks he's doing something else in that behind that locked bathroom door.
He's beating the bishop.
It seems like they might be worried about it. And Science Dog, you got to plug your own books. So put in another book that you have your name on whenever you're going to have a book planted in here.
That's the one thing, man. Like the writers of American comics, they're the real winners because they could write fucking 5 things and just get artists to draw their various things, throw some spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. And Walking Dead stuck. But, what's it called? Science Dick?
Science Dog.
Science Dog.
And that werewolf one didn't take off.
So you have to invest all that time. And I think that's an interesting thing with Walking Dead and with Invincible is like the artists are like, I'll give you 6 issues of not getting paid and doing spec work, 120 spec pages or something like that. Like I could give you that, but I can't like keep doing spec work forever. And then the artists go away and you get Otley coming on, you get Charlie Adler coming on, and they come on for the bulk. But the investment that the original artist puts in is a very hefty investment, and it's all that they can work on at the time. It's just so lopsided, this fucking American industry of comics.
The one gimmick in here that I think works in an interesting way, the kid and the wife, they both know that the father's superhero.
Sure.
I like that because they can have conversations about it. And you kind of see him going through his Peter Parker day as high school student, whatever, going off to his crummy Burger Mart job at the end. I like that Burger Mart's BM.
Sure. Great joke right here. Reginald Vell Johnson, that is the father in Family Matters. And you will see that he is the principal in this issue as well.
But here's our first scene of the superpowers manifesting. Like he's been hoping for it and waiting for it, and finally, it's about time.
It's so funny because like this style was just so, and it's also flip the page. It's this too, where like maybe it's like Gen 1 fucking Cintiq comics or something like that, where you fucking copy paste the backgrounds and have the same view and just have characters do a little something extra, because this was just prevalent, like Michael Avon Oeming with powers and stuff.
I was going to say this I associate with Bendis.
Yeah.
Like whenever he would do Avengers, there would be spreads like this where it was like the same exact backgrounds and maybe a head, just all heads and stuff.
Total time and place. Like this stuff was done a lot in the early 2000s, and it was something that the people that I studied with would exploit.
Hey, it makes sense if you were trying to make deadlines. These 2 pages you can draw pretty quick. Another nice Bill Crabtree here. We're going to do a night scene. You know it, and you do it with blue. You don't have to do it in blacks or grays or something dark that you can't see. Like, just make it cool.
Yeah,
cool colors.
Crabtree's an artist, for sure.
Yeah, he definitely is.
I think Mignola has influence. Like,
you know what? I thought that too, and it's almost minus the black spotting that Mignola does, and I say it on a page where we have some black spotting, but that's kind of how I was thinking of this before I actually got in and reread it and was like, I guess there's a fair amount of blacks here, but it does feel like Mike Mignola is definitely... His influence, man, there have been generations now that have come up where it's like their first couple of books, you'll see Mike Mignola on the sleeves.
Yeah, it's a little less of an abstraction, too, where Mignola will really push it and just soften those shoulder blades and stuff. These guys are showing off that they know how to do anatomy and foreshortening and perspective with backgrounds and stuff. But there's still an abstract tonal quality to the art.
It's interesting what's simplified and what isn't, but readability was something I came away from this comic too, because I complain now and then about some of the stuff that we read that's like a burden to read. You know, you're decoding stuff. The simplicity of this is you can read it very easily, and I actually have a friend of the family who doesn't read comic books at all, and when the Invincible animation came out, loved it and tracked down all the Invincible, like the compendiums, and loved that. So, you know, I think this does lend itself. If you've never read a comic, I don't think you'd have any trouble reading this book.
Yes, and I think it's down also to Kirkman's writing is leaves a lot of error. You know, snappy dialogue that gets to the point, no color, no flourish, no captions that are explaining what we're seeing on the page. You know, it's a fun read. It's good to me. Like, it's so rooted in 2000.
Yes, it
you know,
is.
It's a very timely.
I never think about it as like 2000s has its look. You know, I think 90s. I can identify 90s comics, and you're so right. Like this, the comics, and it is like the children of Mike Mignola would be one of the big stylistic ticks of that time period.
Yeah, and it would be like remember, like Noble Causes would have an art style that kind of like had this kind of energy to it.
The figure stuff all works really well, again, in terms of readability. Like, it's easy to see the three figures that are bouncing off of that fist. I like the characterization stuff, and I think that was a big part. And I haven't read most of Invincible, but my impression is, like, the characterization stuff's really important. You know, having this be a kid, having a dad, family, you know, all that stuff. I think it was part of what got Invincible over.
He looks like fucking Eddie Blake, man, so I ain't trusting him off the bat, to be honest, even though he's got some kind of Eddie Haskell routine he's playing. You know what else?
The hairlines, though, I like this. Like, you're the kid and the father. Let's make some visual similarities.
Got to, man. I think another influence on this kind of look would be Bruce Timm's work on the animated series.
That makes a lot of sense. That's a good call. Yeah, because everybody's always living in that shadow.
Right.
And especially at this time period. Because it's not like Cory Walker, this isn't his first book. Like, he's been drawing for a few years. And I'm sure he was drawing for a few years before that, whenever Bruce Timm's Batman would have been, like, the #1 visual thing out there around comics.
Right. This is that part that explains the superhero costume. You know,
right.
You don't have to be a seamstress and a superhero. Like, there's a guy who handles that stuff.
Yeah, a little bit of early digital motion blur here from Bill Crabtree as dad has to go off and save the world. Get a little bit of blur of those colors. Simple, but fine. And he wasn't happy with that first costume, so we're going to get a little bit more of that. And the designer said, come back to me with a name, and it'll give me something maybe to work with. Get to see a little bit more of that characterization of, like, hey, he's a high school student. Again, the Peter Parker comes to mind, but who knows? Let's put some bands in there. This was always...
Is it a 2000s comic or a 90s comic?
I was going to say, like, you can definitely tag yourself time-wise by doing this. But gets into it with this bully whenever he's picking on another kid. So Invincible decides to tell him to knock it off. He decides to pick on Invincible, and he throws him in through a locker almost. Gets him in the principal's office, and here's your guy. Here's your Family Matters.
There he is. I mean,
the principal office.
That's him right there. So much, man.
I like the design of these bank robbers. That mask is being just completely black, and we never see anything besides a black color for that mask. Works so well to me. Even like the round holes and stuff for the mouth and the eyes, I think is a good choice. Because you'll see this kind of a mask, but maybe the eyes are just the only part that's outlined. I love that they're kind of nondescriptive, those circles around the eyes.
Sure.
Yeah, it gives you a lot more depth than I would expect from this. And are they stealing diamonds, money, whatever they're stealing? As they make their getaway, we see one guy run into the alley ahead of everybody and turn around and run back. Something isn't right. And what is it? Our hero has made his appearance. And dude, it's the Image eye. It's brilliant, right? Here's the problem. He says, you know, I wouldn't try that. I'm invincible. Like, he figures out that invincible gimmick, and it's pretty good. Like, it all works out. As a single issue, as a standalone issue, I feel like all the number ones that we look at, especially superhero stuff, this covers a lot of ground without dragging anywhere, and kind of sets us up, man. It's like off to the races. We know what's going on. We got a young hero. We've watched him develop up to this point. Let's go. Let's have some adventures.
The comics were in such a doldrums around this period of time, and certainly Image Comics, there was nothing happening. There was nothing happening at all, and the way that the business model of Image is that you can basically be making a comic for literally $0. So I think that this art style is a function of that also, man, where, like, I'm going to draw this for you, I'm going to hook it up, but I just don't have the time to be putting too much sexy into it. Letting the color do a lot of the trick. I'll be honest, it's not my kind of thing. You know, like, I like to see everybody going ham, and when I could tell that somebody's withholding, it's not for me. Like, when you have a World of Clouds comics and Los Bros.
So here's some stuff I know just from knowing... man, I hate to say too much about people without their consent. The style is not as fast as you may think, and it's a lot of drawing and then not inking or erasing or redrawing to get to the point of, like, what do you need to make this work, to have, you know, anatomy work or whatever with kind of a minimal drawing style. So it's something that I've talked to Corey about quite a bit because, like I said, going through his portfolio, and you can kind of see some of the work there. But also, like, I admire it in the same way I like Mike Mignola or Jason or, you know, any of these guys who do one line, even like Jaime, I would put in that camp of, like, that one line outline for an arm or something. I kind of marvel if it works.
Yeah, and I do think it does work.
So here's your intro letter from Kirkman, and I love these things. We've talked about them in a lot of these books, especially the Image books. It seems like that was a legacy almost to that early 90s Image books where, like, you had to put in your background, you know, how does this come about? And it's just kind of highlighting the team and giving a little bit of background. You know what's mentioned in here, though, is Andy Kuhn's Fire Breather, which Peter Chung adapted.
Sure.
And I thought that was a newer book. I had no idea that was around, like, early 2000s or late 90s.
We've
like,
been around a while, man.
My brain is completely ruined on a timeline of when things are done and from. And Tony Moore, Walking Dead original artist, doing a pinup here.
It's so fun to see where Tony's work has grown.
Yes.
I follow him on Instagram, and just watching where his art has gotten is crazy.
It's interesting to think of Tony Moore compared to Cory Walker with the you want to see the marks on the page. Mm-hmm. Tony Moore puts a lot of that on. It's almost like you get in these two. Though. Not as much in this image, and that might reflect
or
who
Walking
is.
Dead, really. His shit was pretty minimal there.
That's interesting. I always think of him as being super detailed, but I don't know. A lot of teeth in that octopus mouth. So this is your update, not part of the original edition. It'd be funny to see, like, whatever the inside cover was, although it may have been an ad for something else. It's not like he's plugging all the Invincible stuff that's coming out. But to think, like, here we are 20 years later, and this is, you know, your compendium, facsimile. Be curious to look at the black and white one, too.
It reminds me, I have a bootleg of the Destroyer miniseries, the Marvel miniseries.
Why do you have what's a bootleg of that look like?
Pretty fucking cool, man. Silkscreen cover and all kinds of stuff, man.
Who did that?
I don't know if I could say.
Okay.
but did Cory Walker draw that series?
Yeah. Because Kirkman wrote it, I believe.
Yeah, because it's in black and white and has this kind of line art and stuff. Maybe
if you dig that out, because
yeah.
I have the Destroyer printed series, we could do, like, comparisons of black and white versus color and stuff, which might be really telling.
Yeah, I just saw it not too long ago.
So, pretty neat that Invincible is what it is, right? 60, 70 issues. Big success as a superhero, and, you know, like, putting this video together, I was thinking of it as, like, this is the superhero, the superhero of the 21st century.
Sure.
Like name another one, Spider-Gwen.
I think that's what you call this video, man.
Yes.
And sort of leave it at that. Maybe put it in those colors. You dig?
Yeah.
Good to go?
I am.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell so that we can notify you when new vids are available. And subscribe to our Patreon. Support the channel that way. Our King Kayfabers are watching us record this video. right this very moment, and they're getting all the videos before anybody else. Hit the link in the description below. But the vids are also brought to you by the books that we make. Jimmy, tell the people what you have out there, man.
Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive are all available right now as you're watching this video. Get them wherever you get books. My next book, Street Angel Princess of Poverty, will be out later this spring from Image Comics, and it is the perfect companion piece to Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, as it collects all the Street Angel comics that aren't in Deadliest Girl Alive. They're a perfect set together. You can also join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can download out-of-print zines and mini comics. You can see a lot of my comics and art, and you can see my next comic in progress starting in April.
Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus coming 2023. It is going to be it's the best book that I've ever put together up to this point, man. 500 plus pages of material, everything I ever drew for Hip Hop Family Tree. 140 pages of new stuff that is not in the first 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree. Beautiful hardcover. I have the designers going ham on that thing to just make it a super sexy book. Please pre-order it. Hit my link tree in the description below this video, and it is the very first link. I'm also putting out new Red Room comics. Crypto Killers is being offered to your comic shop right now. I think 2 issues are available, and what you're looking at right here is the covers to issue 1. Jimmy's my ringer, man. Got that Youngblood style cover, Peach Momoko doing her variant, and that is the cover that is on the retail stands. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit. Each book is completely self-contained. There are 2 trade paperbacks of Red Room out there, 4 volumes Hip Hop Family Tree, 3 volumes X-Men Grand Design and WYSIWYG. Scoop up the books. Keep these videos coming to you on a regular basis. Jimmy, tell the people what else we have.
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, mugs, hats, and stickers, and a lot more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
All great ways to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Give them those marching orders and we'll be on our way.
Read more comics. You know, Ryan Otley was a Kubert School correspondence course student.
That's interesting. Yeah, do you remember
if we ever talked to him, that would be the question to... let's hear about it.
Or I could bust his bubble. Be like, hey, dude, you know that Joe Kubert signature you got? It was drawn by Sergio Cariello. Joe Kubert never saw that shit. Had his fucking ghosts working on it.
Wonder if we should do the Kirby stuff in color and then switch it out.
Oh yeah, sure.
I think that matters.
Yeah, it would be best to do because like that. Yeah, that matters. Yeah, we'll get a color background for that.
Look how grimy that looks on screen.
Yeah, Everett Hartsoe is he's a kayfaber, man.
Is he? I always worry because like I don't know anything about him, and it's like, has he done anything that we shouldn't be talking about?
Like I'm done with that. I don't care about that anymore. In fact, with that in mind, like what do you think about Swim Mini Purpose with Brendan McCarthy? Does that sound like a fun video to shoot?
Yeah, I would look at that. What else would you do with him? That would be a good one.
I think that's numero uno
Where
on the
is
list. The color background?
No, the heavy metal.
Oh, it's on top of the comic boxes. Boom. I'm reading Drifting Classroom, dude.
Yeah.
It is fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
It has, you know how like we talk about like context rather than show and tell, like rather than telling people, you give context for character stuff. And there's this part where it basically the story's Lord of the Flies in a way, and there's this one part where there's a fire that happens, and the teacher picks up an extinguisher, is putting people out, but his shoes are on fire for pages, and he's taking care of everybody, and he's the most capable like alpha adult. And they're like, dude, your legs are on fire. And he like looks down and uses all the extinguisher stuff on everybody else. And now he's out of the game. And just like as a character thing, it's like he is the real leader, easily the real leader, because like other adults are already going crazy. The fire started because of some dude, some man, and he's immediately taken out. And just like little shit like that, where it's not telling you that this is a great leader. It's creating a scene to show that this is a great person, and now they're out of the game. There's so much to it. Like American comics, especially the stuff that we read as kids and stuff, so far inferior as reading experiences than the kind of respect that the Japanese mangaka have for their audiences. So I read this piece. Do you want me to just host it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Pretty cool looking shit in here, man. Look at that guy.
Who is this artist?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's wild that people can make art of this quality, and it's like, I don't know who they are.
Dude, we live in that world in a big way right now.
That's what I'm saying. It reminds me of that South American Cazador comic. I ended up getting a bunch of those digitally, and there's a handful of artists that roll through that book, but they kind of have this. They're very good,
yeah,
and it's extreme kind of stuff. I did watch that video though.
Really good, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, this offers a little bit more insight because it's the actual producer that commissioned Kirby to do this. If you want to lock that in, I'm not sure that I did that. Let me put on some text. Give it a second. Man, that lag is severe.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, oops. Whenever you move it, this is just put it right on that line.
The top gray line?
Yep.
Great. Smart. All right, man. If you want to hit it. Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piscor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
The videos are brought to you by the comic books that we make. They're also brought to you by the Patreon, and our biggest supporters at the King Kayfaber level get to see all our videos before anybody else, and they're watching us record this live stream in person. But we are working cartoonists. You're looking at a bibliography of all of our stuff. 2023 is going to be a big year. Jimmy has Street Angel, Princess of Poverty, that is forthcoming sooner than later, collecting the rest of his Street Angel comics that have not yet made an image release. It's going to be a great companion piece with his Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive comic. He has Hulk Grand Design out in the wild. Scoop that up. Those things are selling fast, so get it sooner than later, or else you're going to regret it. Plain Jane's is out there, and a bunch of other comics you're going to be able to find from good old Jimmy. I have the Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus going to come out in 2023, collecting all of the Hip Hop Family Tree comics. We're talking over 500 pages worth of stuff. It's everything I ever drew for Hip Hop Family Tree, and it's going to equal about 140 pages of extras that are not in the first 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree. There are 4 volumes of the individual Hip Hop Family Tree volumes out there. Red Room is the comic I'm working on these days. We're offering a new Red Room miniseries for 2023. Red Room Crypto Killers 1 is able to be ordered by your stores right now. This is the cover that you'll see on the stands when you go to the comic shop in May when the book comes out. And you can know I got my ringers to hook me up with very cool variant covers. Peach Momoko did this ghastly one. If you take a look at all the mess going on inside that mask right there. Jimmy by way of Rob Liefeld. Here's a sketch cover that anybody's going to be able to order off the bat. So get these suckers, draw some cool shit, and tag Cartoonist Kayfabe in it. This is my variant for Red Room. 2 volumes of that are out there. Every story completely self-contained. X-Men Grand Design is another comic I have on the stands. 3 volumes of that. Now that we're done paying the bills, I believe we might have got this from Scott Strong. Ask not what Cartoonist Kayfabe can do for you. Ask what you could do for Cartoonist Kayfabe. And we get lots of cool mail. And when this issue of Heavy Metal came through with this tag right here, good stuff here, we had to see what that is. And it's the Jack Kirby Lord of Light concept artwork that he did in 1978, which was then used by the CIA to get a bunch of, I guess, would-be hostages out of Iran.
Oh, they were hostages. They were in there for like 100 days, I think, right? Like a long time. Maybe a year.
In the Canadian embassy, right? No?
I don't know where they were held, but I mean, they were there a long time against their will.
The movie Argo,
yes,
by what the hell's his name? Ben Affleck.
Yes, not Ben Stiller.
Yeah, plays the CIA agent that gets those hostages out of there. And this is a piece showing off the concept artwork for Lord of Light. It's by Barry Ira Geller, who was the producer of that film. The original book is a what the fuck was the writer's name? The original book was a Roger Zelazny story, won the Hugo for it, Lord of Light. And Barry got into the mind state of wanting to become a movie producer. Got the rights to the book, and independently set to work. He wanted to create a theme park that would generate the funds to produce the movie. And he had Kirby do all this concept work. He was a comic book reader as a kid, really responded to the Marvel age of comics, the Stan and Jack stuff, big Fantastic Four fan, and he was commissioning guys to make these pieces of art, do it like Kirby does. And then he realized, oh, I could just get Kirby to do it. The forthcoming pieces that we're going to see are those pieces that they generated together with some of Barry Ira Geller's original ideas and concepts and things. But up front, man, did you see Errol Morris's new interview show with that CIA spy? This is how these people found out that their work was co-opted by the CIA for that Argo mission. And you can watch this TV show. It's called Little Gray Men. It's from Errol Morris's first-person television show. It's even up on his his own YouTube channel. And they talk with some CIA dude who's talking about his early schemes and shit like that, dressing up like a girl to go to a dance and stuff. And they talked about the whole Argo thing. This artwork was not drawn, like, Kirby was not scammed by the CIA to make this artwork. That is what a lot of people do think, but this was an independent thing that was just kind of dead on the vine. Production hell, whatever you call it.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if this would have been like some of Kirby's first film work.
Sure.
Even if it wasn't ultimately used by the film industry.
We know how that goes when you send your NDAs,
That's exactly
man. The amount of
right.
stuff that we and our friends have done that we can never talk about.
Every artist I know has done some work like that. We've done it, and you just never see it again, and you don't think about it. And all of our work could be part of a CIA scam. Like, how would you know that part?
Yeah, and you don't own it.
Right.
Copyright Barry Ira Geller Productions. He probably paid a decent penny to have Kirby, draw this stuff. Kirby goes wild on this shit. But development hell. The guy on the documentary series was talking about how you have to create, I forget exactly what he called it, but it's basically a cover. Mm-hmm. If you're going to go perform a mission and say you get caught or you get questioned, you have to create a plausible setup where if this authority figure grabs you and calls a number, the person on the other line has to say, oh yeah, they're just scouting for a film or whatever. They set up on like the Columbia lot. They got a hold of this dusty old screenplay and concept art. And I guess maybe the palette was like, hey, it's an arid looking palette. We'll go out there and pretend to be scouting locations.
Yeah, and you and I talked about this week after watching the interview with the spy and stuff, and speculated like Kirby may have gone to the grave without knowing that this was used this way.
He 1,000% absolutely did, because Barry Ira Geller discovered it from the TV show Roz Never Knew. It was the year 2000 when that show came out. Kirby dies in 93. Roz dies just a few years after that. So, I mean, the title of this video should be something like, we know a secret about Kirby that he never knew about himself. Or Kirby got used by everybody, including the CIA. But with all this information that got declassified, we officially know something about Jack Kirby that he never knew about himself. And that is a wild concept to think about.
It really is, and also this has a very good ending, right? It saved a bunch of people's lives.
Yeah.
It could just as equally have been used as some kind of propaganda and used for forces of dark, let's say. Like, it's very nice that this has the good ending it does, but it does make me wonder what else is out there and has been like
co-opted.
Yeah, and used for who knows what.
Yeah, it's been proven that comic book imagery is very effective as a teaching tool and things like that. So we know that there have been propaganda comics out there. certainly chick tracts have their propagandistic bend.
That's
and
very true.
They're the most, widely circulated comics on this planet.
At least that guy's aware of what he's doing, though. It's not like somebody got them and...
Well, he's doing his own CIA operation.
Right,
you know what I'm saying, man? But it is fascinating. And certainly when you watch the Errol Morris interview, it only created more questions. Well, how do you just get a lot on the Columbia, studio premises, and how do you just make that happen? So like everybody's in bed with everybody.
Yes.
I think Michael Bay does stuff for the Army so that he can get tanks and shit like that for his movies at a cheap price. And
yeah, Jerry Bruckheimer I think was big for that. At this point, I guess Tom Cruise is. You don't get to make these airplane movies without
Oh, it's crazy.
getting sign-offs.
I was an extra in a flick where they had military uniforms and stuff, and they have actual guys from the military, straight up PTSD fuck, straight like with the blink, with the scary gaze and the blink and stuff, just making sure that you're not disrespecting the uniform. And in the stands, it was a bunch of gay boys from the art school in military outfits doing like seductive movements to each other, and this guy was fucking flipping. It's still early in the days of that don't ask, don't tell type shit.
Look at how wild this is as an illustration. Like these giant faces that just, I don't even know what is sitting on, and then tiny little people walking around like this is some huge monument.
Yeah, and a theme park.
What is this story?
How do you build that?
Unbelievable.
And is this us? So you're going to build this thing?
Yeah.
Barry Geller talks about how for architects and things, it was just a nightmare. Like when Kirby's generated these pieces, they're just like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, there's a reason this film got shut down. They took one look at this and were like, $300 million budget?
In 1970.
Yeah. How Jim Woodring-esque is this particular illustration, knowing that in the late 70s, I mean, when did they work together at Ruby Spears? Early 80s? Like, it's not too far off.
Yes. And it is worth noting that these are sept, I believe, just for this issue. I've seen these drawings and with the Kirby Doc Martin dies and stuff like that. So this is like, there's extra work done for this issue.
Were these released as blacklight posters at some point too? I think like some of them may have been like a heavy metal limited release, San Diego Comic Con, something like that.
That's this, and it's one of those things, man. This Barry Geller guy that's all this is promoting these prints, and Barry Geller's getting money, and Kirby's getting nothing. He got his work for higher paid rate, so like that continues the theme of everybody uses Jack Kirby.
I like the color on this page a lot.
I think it's reasonably faithful to the colors that I've seen Kirby do when he goes really, really nuts with his Doc Martens. Yeah. Because he is not afraid to use every color.
I love it. This is not gray or brown.
Sure.
We're not seeing any of that stuff here.
This is the one that I feel like I always remember, with the different platforms and towers and shit. Like, yeah, how you gonna build this thing? And it seems awfully ambitious for this Barry Geller guy to be like, oh, we'll just create a theme park. Like at least Walt Disney had, Sleeping like Snow White came out to bring money in. This guy's starting from a place of zero and is like, yeah, I'm gonna have a theme park and we're gonna do a movie.
Yeah, I always think of that whenever you hear these scams. Like, I want to be a movie maker, and here's how I'm gonna fund it. I'm gonna build a theme park. It's like, dude, you're talking about doing something that's almost impossible.
2 times.
Right.
But there are these guys, like, you could separate people from their money. I think about that Lou Pearlman guy who created, like, Backstreet Boys and all that, and how he got pinched for having, like, a fake airline scam to the point where he had a little model built and is, like, snapping the photos, holding it up into the sky. Like, what kind of... I guess out there in Glittertown, there are probably some near Alzheimer's, very rich people that you could probably talk out of their loot.
The thing is, like, you can find people who have done this, have gone like some circuitous route and done the hardest version of this. I think of Philip Smith. It's like, I'm going to learn Japanese and then I'm going to go become a mangaka. And he did it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to be outlandish in your ideas. Like this feels a little bit, maybe you're aiming a little too high.
Yeah.
But you can find these people who actually accomplish these amazing dreams.
Totally. But there it is, man. We know secrets about Jack Kirby that he never knew about himself.
It was so cool when this story kind of was breaking.
It was unbelievable.
Like as the movie was ramping up, you would hear about this story, and it was like one of those great, entertaining comic book stories.
Yeah, it was in...
And it was unbelievable,
Before the movie, before the movie, I had no knowledge of the Errol Morris thing. But I did have a subscription to Wired Magazine. Did the first grand piece about that in the early 2000s. I was still working at the call center, I believe, man. So that was like the first big piece, and it was like, one, cool to read about Jack Kirby in Wired Magazine. Two, like, it just felt too outlandish. Like, the whole CIA piece felt super outlandish, man. But what a great way to just take a look at this great concept art. Sort of the best. Well, no, cut that part out.
It is really interesting to see it presented this way.
Yeah.
It's nice to have some context for it too, and it should be presented in comics somewhere.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a Jack Kirby story, so like, let's get it out there.
Yeah, and for those playing at home, we're looking at Heavy Metal issue 276.
Yeah, nice. It even gets the cover feature. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Kevin Eastman still publisher, editor in chief. So that's
interesting.
close
This
to.
got to be near the end of his run.
Yeah, 2015.
Very cool.
Good to go, Jimmy?
I am.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available, and join us on Patreon. Patreon.com/CartoonistKayfabe, I believe, is the URL, but hit the description in the video below to join us in those ranks. And if you are there, you're watching us stammer through this live recording session that will be edited and finally polished into a very amazing, beautiful video that you're watching right now. And the King Kayfabers get all our videos before anybody else. But the vids are brought to you also by the books that we make. And coming soon is the Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus. 500 plus pages with 140 pages of new material. And Red Room Crypto Killers. Issue 1 is being offered to your comic shop right at this moment. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game. Peach Momoko did a cover. Jimmy did a cover. We have a sketch cover for issue 1 of Crypto Killers, and that is the Eddie P variant for that comic. There are 2 existing trade paperbacks of Red Room out there today, 4 volumes Hip Hop Family Tree, 3 X-Men Grand Designs, and 1 WYSIWYG. Jimmy, what books do you got coming out soon?
Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadly Squirrel Alive are out right now. My next book is Street Angel Princess of Poverty. That one will be out later this spring from Image Comics, and will collect all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Deadly Squirrel Alive, so it's the perfect companion piece. Round out that set in your collection. And you can follow me on patreon.com/JimRug, where you can see lots more of my art, download out of print zines and mini comics, and see the comics that I'm working on next.
What else do we have going on with Cartoonist Kayfabe, though, Jimmy?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, mugs, stickers, and more at our spread shop. That link is also underneath this video.
Given those marching orders, will be on our way.
Read more comics.
I feel like the CIA should make us moles and pay us heavily.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Once you're in there, I think you're in there for life, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
That's a commitment.
That's okay, man. Just make us, like, super fat rich.
I don't know if they do that with anybody. I feel like the way they keep you on the payroll is maybe a little blackmail and extortion.
Bring the noise. I watched that new Luther movie because everybody was talking about Red Rooms being in there and stuff.
Oh, yeah?
That's Idris Elba.
Yeah, I know. I know. I had no idea there was any Red Room.
The whole concept, and they do call it Red Rooms, man. Like I cut a little piece where he's like, they're running a Red Room, and then the guy's like, Red Rooms do not exist. They're urban legend. He's like, I know, but he's trying to blah blah blah. And the way they do it is they got like viruses in people's computers. They're able to turn all this shit on, and there's just a bank. There's like an airplane hangar full of people working like in an operating, like a call center type thing with all these computers. Like, just, they choose a subject and they're watching him and seeing everything they do in-house that they can record, and they're like making note, like infidelity. And then they use that on these guys to either create new Red Room fodder or create money, like create a situation where they have to like patronize the Red Room and they scam money out of them. Fucking Edward Hortzo, man. These photo covers.
Yeah, this is a later printing.
It was so, like, these guys were, well, when they would come through Pittsburgh, it was a dark time. I guess it's worth noting on the certificate of authenticity. Keep your certificate
for whenever
Jimmy.
I CGC this thing.
Yeah. They fucking, These people.
This is good stuff.
Do you know what that read?
I don't, and I've been watching it. It's been read for a couple videos.
Yeah.
I don't know, because the battery's above it.
Yeah.
And that looks fine.
Could that be capacity?
That's what I think too, but I dumped everything.
Yeah.
Unless iMovie fills up every now and then, I have to dump it and reload it.
It does, and when you restart your computer, or like when you restart the phone, it'll clear out.
Yeah, maybe that's what
I
need to do.
But we just got one more.
Yeah. I'm ready.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Jim Rugg.
I'm Ed Piskor.
Want to remind everybody that we now have a Cartoonist Kayfabe Patreon. 3 different levels there that'll get you access to videos early, and at the King Kayfaber level, it'll get you access to our recording sessions where you can actually converse with us, talk about upcoming interviews, and most importantly, you get these videos ahead of time, which will give you a leg up on the Kayfabe effect. Sometimes we look at stuff that could be increase in price or disappear completely if it's something a little bit obscure. So check out the Patreon, see what level works for you, and join us there. You can also support Cartoonist Kayfabe by buying our books. You can see our bibliography here on the screen right now. Ed Piskor has X-Men Grand Design, WYSIWYG, and the upcoming Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus, which is available for pre-order now, over 500 pages, including 140 extra pages. So reserve that one today. Also, Red Room, you can see trigger warnings here prominently. Antisocial Network, the 2 volumes that are out so far, and the 3rd volume is starting up in a couple of months. You can pre-order the first 2 issues of Crypto Killers. Number 1 here is the variant cover by Ed Piskor. There is a Red Room Crypto Killers sketch cover for issue number 1. You guys have been clamoring for, so
tag us in your drawings.
New Nightmare material there. My variant cover, an homage to Youngblood number 1 by Rob Liefeld, one of those creator books that really had a big influence on me. Peach Momoko, the cottage industry coming through, very nice. And this is your main cover. So this will be out in a couple of months, but you need to pre-order that one now. Get that on your pull list. My latest books, Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, available wherever books are bought and sold. My next book, Street Angel Princess of Poverty, you can pre-order this one right now at your local comic shop or online. It'll be available later this spring. Collects all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Deadliest Girl Alive. So complete your Street Angel collection and pre-order Street Angel Princess of Poverty today. Boy, speaking of a juxtaposition, Ed, from Street Angel to Razor, about as far apart as we can get. But we look at a variety of comics, and this is one of those very intriguing to me books, self-published in the early 90s. 1992, I think, was the first issue of Everett Hartsoe's Razor, and Everett Hartsoe writing and drawing this initial issue in the first couple of issues. So I love the idea that, like, writer-artist, that's... Razor would go on to have a ton of miniseries, crossover series, over 50 issues of her own series, not all written and drawn by Everett Hartsoe, but these first couple were. And I look at this stuff because I didn't read this back in the day. I probably didn't even hear of Razor until who knows when, late 90s, early 2000s.
When Wizard starts talking about it or something?
Maybe once I start setting up at shows, because I think this was set up at my very first comic book show in Pittsburgh. I think he was in the same aisle as me. But nevertheless, we look at creator-owned books, and this is one of them. This is also Outlaw. This is Bad Girl. There's a lot of stuff happening here.
Yeah.
And the stuff on his Wikipedia page says he paid for this with a tax refund, which I love hearing. It's like, how do you start your own business? Like, just go for it. And he did, and this thing was published for a long time. It's still out there, and I think collections and things are still being offered. So we talk about the benefits of creator-owned comics, and that's a huge one.
No, yeah, I mean, his little investment bore major fruit, because, like, let's explain what that booth was at your first Comic-Con, because, I mean, he was set up since the very first Pittsburgh Comic-Con, and it was a whole production. It might be, like, say, 3 tables wide at your local Comic-Con, and certainly when Pittsburgh Comic-Con started up, it would be maybe 3 or so years after this comes out, where he basically has a stable. And there are just dominatrixes, there are penthouse ladies, there are Skinamax movie starlets and shit like that, who each have their own book. And some of the scams they would do would be like, you could get this titty cover. Like, it's a cover, and it's the starlet with, she's naked, like a naked photograph. And you gotta pay $50 for that one.
Yeah, and you can see it right here. This is a
Totally.
tame version.
Yeah.
You can see it's a photo cover, and this is a subsequent printing. So
Right.
that is a formula that they latched onto as time went on.
But he had a giant sort of empire going with a lot of moving pieces, and he's flying in these starlets, and I'm sure they're like, yo, we can't just get like a regular old fucking flight. We got to have the nice hotel rooms and all that, because like some of them would be like Playboy chicks, like.
I was explaining this book to Bill Boychelle once. We were driving somewhere, and he was unfamiliar with it, and I was explaining how like there's over 100 issues of Razor comics out there. And I think that it was just right place, right time.
Totally.
And then you get the launch, because it's late 92 is whenever the first issue is released. And it's like, that's the probably bubble peak. Right place, right time, if you can put out a book that draws some interest in the late 92, early 93. Like, that was the time.
Sure.
And I think that he just found this receptive audience out of North Carolina. So, like, I feel like he goes, you see him at Heroes and stuff like that. Like, it's books that I see here on the East Coast. And maybe it's because he did have a strong presence in Pittsburgh Comic-Con over the years. So, you know how that goes. You end up dumping books to local dealers and stuff at the end of the shows. But I do see these. Like, I've got a pretty big collection of Razor, and it's from pulling them out of, dollar bins and 50-cent bins.
And it is noteworthy, too, that at Pittsburgh Comic-Con, at one point, like, the Christian League or somebody sort of made a lot of noise because the con would advertise with Pokemon and Spider-Man and shit like that, and comic was real big on the Comic-Con advertisements and things. So when the Christian League comes and brings their kids, like they're seeing these dominatrixes and shit like that, and like my kid brother saw his first female pubes at the Everett Hartsoe table because the chick's G-string was just all pulled to the side. Is that James O'Barr?
James O'Barr pulling out some cover art.
Yeah.
They talk about in the back, there's letters, columns, as you can imagine, talks about this starting out as an Aeon Flux, like an homage to Aeon Flux.
Believe it.
And you can kind of see it in certain, I think, costume designs and stuff. I was looking at it and going like, is Elektra, like how much DNA does Elektra spread through like the bad girl era of the 90s?
Faust.
But I love the idea of Aeon Flux being a noted in the book influence.
And it's hysterical too because there is so much nuance to Aeon Flux. There is so much happening in Aeon Flux. And this is like purely superficial.
So, as I say, there's a lot of these books out there.
Yeah.
And you can even see, like, the Razor Archives reprint the early Razors.
Sure.
So, you can imagine this almost through the lens of the top 10 list in Wizard. And I wonder, Ed, you're reading Wizard in the mid to late 90s. Was Razor represented in those
very
lists?
Much. Yeah, very much, man.
Yeah, it feels like it should be. If you were into, like, the bad girl stuff, I mean, this feels more satisfying to me than, like, a Witchblade. Like if you want the real bad girl stuff and you're coming from, say, Faust and wanting that R-rated violence, you're not getting that out of, like, the full color kind of she-like books.
The other piece that, like, we just don't have it. I know you don't have the stuff. I don't have the stuff. But I saw it as a kid, and it's Outlaws shit and became very popular, is that Joe Michael Linsner Dawn, which there was Cry for Dawn. The black and white duotone, all that was before, and that really hit. That was like when Crow came out.
Yes,
like Cry for Dawn was a big chick version.
Yeah, and there were a couple Lisner covers in my little collection. So like he was definitely like those guys. I link all of that together.
Totally, and they are like that. It's like when Eastman and Laird were talking about going to cons and being paired up with like the other like animal artist. There was like the titty guys, and it's Joe Linsner, it's Jim Ballant, it's Everett Hartsoe, and then there would be these other ones. Like I could probably put together an episode, dude, of like the guys you never heard about who had like a couple self-published like titty comics. There's one called Harpy. You remember Harpy? That dude was at Pittsburgh. I
kind of remember that. Yeah. Double Impact is one that I see in every freaking dollar box. Yeah. At least around here. Almost Iron Fist.
Totally Iron Fist.
But this feels like such a lift of. This is a Faust cover.
It is, yeah.
This part. I love the duo shade, though, and this is newsprint. If you can't tell at home, this is newsprint that we're looking at here. It has those qualities. Like, this is Outlaw comics. It's sex, violence. I don't know if there's anybody that you would cheer for in these comics. Like it's drug dealers beating up other drug dealers. Button your Liefeld on the shirt.
Right. The lettering is that like it's like a label or something.
Yeah, the label makers. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what it is. It may be early digital cut and pasted like
I think it's
Silverwolf, but it does have that label maker style font.
Yeah, my parents had a Brother word processor, and you could put, I forget if it was like a disc or maybe it was like a literally like the ball from like a typewriter. Where we had like different fonts,
Yeah,
and I just forget exactly how. I think it was maybe a cartridge or something, but you could get the like Comic Sans cartridge.
Yeah, I always loved this. It's not exactly this, but it's almost this font would be in like the New York City Outlaws. A lot of the Ken Landgraf stuff, he must have had a label maker like that, and there's something about it just adds to sort of that like homemade,
very 90s.
It's not quite right, but it's great. Like it has that quality.
It communicates comic book hand lettering, and if you're too shy to do it yourself, it's like, oh well, this is good enough.
It is, yeah. And more of this outlaw kind of energy. You know, this guy is gutted. Like that is intestines that are hanging out of him.
Yeah, it's a great sequence. Like the guy gets lifted and just like blood and then like entrails and things. Look at that fucking lighting with the hatching and stuff. And there is a direct brick wall behind everybody at all times.
Yes.
Everett Hartsoe is not trying to draw backgrounds.
No. I think it's real effective, though. I love this kind of stuff where it's like your character's coming out of that shadow a little bit. You get to see it, get that first look at her. And here are ne'er-do-wells drug dealing gang. So you've got like criminals in the front, drug dealers who are a little bit at odds with those criminals, Razor in the middle that's this super vigilante.
Yeah.
And her sister Strike, who's the assassin that works for the big crime boss.
Like, you just don't even need those captions.
No, of course not.
Just show the thing.
I wonder if Everett Hartsoe has, like, if this was his first comic.
Seems like it.
It has that energy, and again, like, I'm on board for that. That's what I want.
Yeah,
this is a little extreme, but it still has that, like, go for it energy. There's a certain, I don't know, liveliness from that.
Yeah, I'm fine with the extreme. The forehead lines are always something that cracked me up, because I would put those on. Because, like, Jim Lee would start out with, like, Wolverine, right?
Oh, man, I did it with Liefeld, too, would do it.
Yeah, sure. And then when you're a kid, you're not taking the lessons. So you're just like, okay, well, you got to put those lines on. And then it's like later on when you're drawing, say, you know, a bald-headed guy, and you're trying to make it look 3D, where you realize, like, oh, that's just kind of like the top, like, it's the front plane of the face, where the forehead meets the top of the head. And you got to try to sell that in an image.
I wonder who starts that. Is that an Art Adams, like, Wolverine mask or something?
Yeah, maybe, or probably Barry Windsor Smith.
It was so prevalent, and I would do. You can see some stuff too, like the cross hatching under the cheekbones was another one where at some point I did that on every drawing, and at some point you realize, like, what is that? That doesn't make any sense with any person I've ever seen. But, you know, like, you could see it. And I certainly used it all over the place as well. How about this? Cut the top of the head off, brains revealed.
Pill in the caps, man. And it looks like cheese curls.
Yes, it does. It's awesome. Love the borders too. Like, it's not a bad comic the way this is produced. It's kind of wild, but, you know, like, it makes sense, sort of, within the storytelling.
Real raw.
Eyeballs shooting out. This reminds me, the head coming off, of that Commando scene whenever he's in the shed and flings the saw blade through the one guy's head.
She ain't called Razor for nothing, man. Flaying a dude straight down the middle.
And that is your classic Outlaw blood, man. Just the black ink blood spraying out.
Good liquids.
There's your brick wall with some graffiti right behind
everybody. Behind everybody gets the brick wall. See? and they're always really close to the brick wall. So look, let's figure this out in like 3D space. Razor is behind the brick wall with a window with some boards, and then her sister is behind another brick wall with the trash can.
Yeah, that's a narrow alley, and they're facing each other.
Well, I guess maybe, there's Razor right there, so maybe she snuck up behind.
She does sneak up behind her. You know what? That's fair, because here's the whatever this is wrapped around her neck.
They are the Betty and Veronica of Outlaw Comics.
Wow.
You got the brunette, you got the blonde.
You might have named this video.
And they have such a fucking 90s haircut, man. My mom had that haircut.
That's hilarious. And then an Everett Hartsoe pinup to.
Look at that, flayed skins.
It's pretty hard.
Flayed skins, baby.
Skulls on pikes. Also in the alley, by the way. I'd like to know how you set that pike in the ground.
Dude, this really
Maybe
makes
the
me
sewer.
so nostalgic for that Pittsburgh Comic Con 1996, 1997, when there were all these dudes with their fucking nonsense black and white comic. I grabbed every single one. We're talking Chris Yambar's Mr. Beat.
Yeah, a far cry from this one too, by the way. Like I look at some of the background art here. This is William David Floyd. I don't know that name, but the amount of like fine line that he's hatching out this stuff
Yeah, it's
with
really cool.
is pretty impressive. And boy, is everybody in for a treat, because Codename Heavy Metal, Hartso and Tim Tyler here doing the at least the cover art. You know that I'm not going to leave you guys down at home. Also signed. See, this is a guy that came through Pittsburgh. The reason that I have these.
Yeah, so this don't got the Tim Tyler joint.
It does not. No, it doesn't. And it's not Hartso on the artwork inside. You see Michael Ortez is the artist of this first story. And I did want to flip through it just because, like, look at how Image-esque this stuff is.
Absolutely.
And it still has that Outlaw quality, but it's I mean, this is Youngblood #1. Dude.
It is.
This
yeah,
is Chapel
totally.
in bed.
It is. Look at the pubes. Come and see that. See, that was my brother, man, at Pittsburgh Comic Con. It was exactly that kind of deal, man. Where like the chick, she had the winter bush.
But I mean, this to me, I love the idea of, like, I'm sure Everett Hartso was like Image, sell out soft stuff. This is real close. Same aesthetic.
Yeah, totally. And this is the aesthetic of those comics. Like that Heartbeat comic I mentioned, it has the Jim Lee double lighting and the tapering.
And it looks like you can see, like, this thing is inked with markers, but it's also like the grayscale is marker. You can see brush strokes and things in the background as you're getting that gray stroke. And shadow on the face and forehead, much more effective to me than that hatch, that half circle hatch that we all did.
Yeah, that's for computer colorists to let them know.
This is kind of a cool, for an Outlaw 90s comic, and Necro Cops is your background.
Good
and
title.
This is ridiculous. Because here's our Necro Cop getting ready, so we got to start out
with
topless. And then blow away some of these zombie dead that they're out there fighting. Great car.
Cool design.
Yeah, gotta love that. And whenever you're out there fighting zombies, what are they going to do? Rip your shirt off.
Sure.
So, as she started, so will she finish this.
Those are
this
those
great adventure.
early '90s breast implants that were on Geraldo and stuff, where the chicks this shit was leaking and just fucking people up, getting real sick.
You get your letters page here, a little bit of info, what's coming up, and that's it for this second printing. I don't know if anything else major was changed. I think some of this stuff, like this back cover, is probably a little bit newer because I don't think this was ready when issue 1 happened.
The front cover was a Tim Tyler inked Razor image with Everett Hartso on the pencils too. So like Tim Tyler, man, he's the guy who defined Outlaw Comics in a way, man, because he
certainly had his fingers in a lot of pies.
He touched everything.
Yeah, he really did. Weird comic, it's pretty cool. It's one of those that's like, it's bizarre it exists in some ways.
Yeah, and it struck at that time when everybody's buying issue 1 of everything. You didn't want to be lost in the sauce like you were with TMNT issue 1, and it's a new era, a lot of new interest.
And Hartso is a hustler, as you mentioned with like the photo covers. Like as this series picks up, you'll end up seeing pages of ads in the back for like back issues and cover variants and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So a few of those guys, like Jim Ballin, I think does some of that with Tarot, where you'll see like the mail order, I think, is a big part of the sales and the success of these comics.
Sure, yeah. You never see Tarot comics like in the quarter bins or anything like that, but you would see that there's like over 100 of them.
Right.
And he really pumped his name up by doing that Catwoman and really exciting people with his work on that for years. Like, I don't think he skipped a deadline.
No, he did like 70 issues or something. It was really impressive in a time when people were criticized all the time for being slow.
Yeah.
He seemed to learn that deadline message at the Kubert School.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that there's more than 100 issues of Tarot at some point. Yeah. Maybe he's still doing it. I see him at conventions.
It's a real alternative business model in a lot of ways. I think that these self-published books that make it to 100 issues or so, like, that is a different outside the diamond system.
You just gotta have some other kind of administration. Like it's selling paper stapled down the middle. Like, can you figure out how to do that? You don't have to use the roads, the path of least resistance. You can do other things. Elvira, like when I was in art school, there were several teachers that worked on Elvira comics that you never see, but they existed, and you could see ads and like Comic Buyer's Guide for these things. It was all just mail order.
Oh, I should say, Razor's whole mission is her family was killed by that crime boss when she was a little girl. So grew up, think of like Frank Castle or Batman, like Batman's origin, but grew up with those razor blades with the mission to kill that crime boss. So that's what's in here, the very early stages of that story.
The very early stages.
Part one of many.
Jim, I need to get out of here, man. I need a unicorn chaser. Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. Subscribe to our Patreon. Directly in the link below this video in the description, you'll be able to find a link to do that. The King Kayfabers are watching us record this right at this very moment. And if you're a King Kayfaber, you're getting all the videos ahead of time. But the vids are brought to you by the books that we make. So, Jimmy, tell the people what you have.
Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive are all out and in print right now, available wherever you buy books. Street Angel Princess of Poverty is my next Street Angel book, coming out later this spring from Image Comics. It will collect all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, so you're going to want to have both of those volumes on your shelf. You can also follow me on my patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can download out-of-print zines and minis. You can see a lot more of my artwork and comics there, and you can see what I am working on next.
Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus hitting stores in 2023 in time for Christmas. Pre-order that sucker right now. It's 500 plus pages of Hip Hop Family Tree comics and art, 140 pages of extras that are not in the first 4 volumes of the Hip Hop Family Tree big books that are out there on the stands. 10th anniversary of Hip Hop Family Tree, 50th anniversary of hip hop. 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree on the stands right now. 3 volumes X-Men Grand Design, 2 volumes of Red Room, of which we are celebrating a new round of Red Room comics in 2023, coming in May. Red Room Crypto Killers issue number 1, going to hit your stores, and we have many flavors of the cover for issue number 1. Look at the Jim Rugg cover right there, Peach Momoko cover. These are my ringers to get people excited and sexy about Red Room, and this is the cover that you will see in the stores that everybody can get their hands on really easily. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit, banned in 26 countries, banned in about 15 comic shops. We met some of those comic shop owners. They expressed their sorrow that it had to be canceled in their town. Every story self-contained. Scoop them up. Support the Patreon. You can read these comics before they hit paper. Jim, what else do we have?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, mugs, hats, stickers, and more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
All great ways to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Given those marching orders, we'll be on our way.
Read more comics.
All right.
I should have said this in the video, but Razor must be the most successful of all those.
Probably Dawn.
Yeah, but how many issues of Dawn have come out?
Well, what does successful mean?
Yeah, I guess so. Number most voluminous.
That'll work. Right quick.
How about I found a neighbor that I met this week who has a print shop in his heated garage.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, he's like 2 blocks over. So like I didn't know the guy, and I met him and went over and was looking, and it's like mostly letterpress, but he has one wall that is entirely drawers of letterpress letters.
Yeah.
And like 3 different presses. I think I'm gonna try to do a blacklight woodcut. Because he's like, come over and print, and he's a teacher, so he's off in the summer. He's like, come over and print, and I was like, yeah, I might. And I've been trying to think of like what to do with it, because like the facilities are crazy good.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that this is sitting like a 4-minute walk from my house, and it's been there for, I don't know, he's been there for like 8 years, and I had no idea.
Yeah, it's crazy what's out there, man.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Makes me wonder, like, you know, we were looking at houses for a long time, and a couple of the houses, like, you'd go in and they're not empty yet, you know, the seller's like packed up or whatever. I found a couple that were comic book collectors.
Totally.
A lot of long boxes. One dude was all Batman comics, and he must have had 5,000 Batman comics.
Man.
Yeah, it was nuts.
That might be all of the 2022 output of Batman comics.
But the print shop was a pretty good find. Like, I feel like I may end up trying to do something there.
Yeah, no, that sounds like fun, man. You know, I think about that yard sale that was 4 blocks from my house when I was 30 years old, man. My dad got me the coolest Christmas present ever. I mean, a birthday present when I was 30 years old by just going to that yard sale. And he likes to fucking hustle, man. Like, and they had comics, and it was just it wasn't long boxes or nothing. It's never successful to put it up that way.
Oh, really?
Like, it always falls and gets fucked up. Like, you just gotta not be. And it's like, you know, that's how I got the Junkie issue and
yeah, that was good stuff too in that collection. It wasn't like that was 90s Valiants.
No, a little of that was in there. Super Cop, SNAIL comics and shit like that was in there.
I bought Super Cops off the spinner rack.
That's amazing.
No, it's good. No, it isn't.
Good title, because I just remember that era. Because like that era, I remember getting the Marvel Terminator 2 comic with the blue cover with the big face portrait. You know, like that's all that era. RoboCop comics. Obviously the Marvel, like the Image Marvel dude #1s was that era. So we'll do this comic, and then we'll have to play with this shit. We'll do a little commentary thing over top of Peach's vid, and then just show off our stuff. I'm gonna call this
probably
video.
Have time to do that other video.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we have 2 hours.
You know, it's interesting too. Like that guy that had the print shop had a couple motorcycles sitting in there. Had
He's
an
a tinkerer.
Airstream sitting in the driveway, shined up too, in good shape. You know, like he uses it and stuff. But as I'm talking to him and everything, you realize like, because Natalie was with me, and whenever we're walking home, I'm like, you know, obsessive, right? Like he has 3 or 4 hobbies running that all seem like they could just be like one would fill most people's hobby time allotment, and he had several of them.
Yeah,
and you can identify those traits. You know, you can almost see them. They're I often think it's creative people that have those, but then I also think like if you don't find that outlet, because I asked him at one point, I was like, if you could, you know, like make your living full time doing this, would you? And he seemed real keen on that idea, and it's like he probably could do it if he, you know, tried it or dedicated himself to it.
Yeah.
But like I think people like don't necessarily find that path.
And it's certainly a Pittsburgh thing to think that like that's not even possible.
Right.
Like I face that shit my whole life with family and friends and stuff. Like, well, what can you do with that? And you know, he might be a piece of... Because the salesmanship, to make the living, is a different skill.
It is. I was going to say that. Like, you know, it's one thing to go, man, I love printing. you know, and you brush up against it one way or the other, and then pretty soon you're buying some stuff and you've got a setup and you're doing it, and it's real fun, and it's the production creative part.
Yeah.
But that other part is completely separate. The business, the sales, the figuring out time and money and all those things, like, it has nothing to do with the creative part.
And you see what these fucking people have to do here to try to make their way when you go to, like, Handmade Arcade, and it's the most panderous Pittsburgh pierogi.
Well, we were
Prince shit
talking
like
about that, and they were saying, like, the different art scene here in Pittsburgh and how good it is. And I was like, I don't know if it's... You know what they said? They said it hasn't been as interesting. Like, they haven't seen as much interesting stuff for a couple years. And I'm like, it's that real estate market. Because it used to be, like, you could live here for almost nothing. And that meant you could make art that isn't generating income,
right,
but still have time to, like, spend a lot of time making that art. And I don't see any of that anymore.
Yeah, I really never saw that much anyhow. Like, when we did that Creative Capital stuff, and what was the dude's name that ran the Warhol for a while?
Eric Shiner?
Eric Shiner, when he came through, he's talked about, like, the Pittsburgh art scene is something mediocre, like pathologically mediocre, and everybody that was in, like, all my people, man, were, like, so deflated, and I started laughing because I agree, you know, and like, to me, it's like, talk about a fucking small barrel of fish. Like, why would you even care about Pittsburgh, like, being a part of a Pittsburgh art scene? Like, we have spread out, like, thanks to print and all that stuff.
Like, there were international artists and stuff that lived here based on the cost of living. It's not that they were showing here or making their living from this scene. What they were doing was, like, headquartering and then showing wherever and working, you know, wherever.
Yeah.
And I just don't know any of that anymore. And maybe I aged out a little bit, but I really think that cost of living has changed here.
Yeah, sure.
And that it's affected stuff like that.
Yeah, as it does, you know, like, for my whole life, man, like, the artists come in and beautify a little town.
Right. Yeah, that's what I remember. There were books written on that in the early 2000s.
That was Southside when I was little, and then it became all the bars and, like, hip, like, big stuff, and then Lawrenceville was that way. That fucking blew up. Like,
I feel like Lawrenceville's fared better than Southside.
At least it at least has more. It's more, you know, Fern Bar type better. You know, like Southside is alcohol better. So, like, Vice, that's a lot of money in Vice.
It's like Alcohol Kids, you know, like, it's a college.
Yeah. No, it's crazy.
I don't know about going there on a weekend.
The violence that I've seen a guy fucking get his stomach cut open and holding his guts, waiting for the cops to come get him. I saw a guy get shot in the belly 4 times. And every night there would be a bar fight. Like, I lived down there for a little while. Yeah. But I lived far enough away from the bars that only every now and then, man, I would have to shoo a guy off who's pissing on our street, on our steps and stuff. I'm gonna have you lock us in. So the video that we're gonna do here, and I'm gonna try to, Jimmy, put your head to this as well whenever I put things up. But it's Americonics Special #1, Sentinels of Justice. It's from 1984, I believe, 1983. And we're going to call it something like before Watchmen, or something like this, man. Yeah, something like that, where Americonics, AC Comics at the time, takes the Charlton characters and makes a team out of them. And so you have your Night Owl, your Doc Manhattan, your Sally Jupiter, your Rorschach, Peacemaker ain't in here. It's like the Steve Ditko wing of the Charlton universe. And what's real fun is, like, on the very last page of the story, which is left on a cliffhanger, is like, want to know where our things are going? And it's like, who is this shrouded figure who vows to destroy Sentinels? We will never know, because the Charlton characters have been sold to another publisher. Fascinating document. Fascinating. I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, this was a new to me this week.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that... see, that's not quite right. It's got to be about here. Okay.
You ready?
Yes, sir. Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piskor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
Support our Patreon and keep these videos rocking. You could hit the link in the description below. Become a King Kayfaber. They're watching us record these videos in live stream fashion, and they get all the videos ahead of anybody else. I think this is going to be a Kayfabe-affected book that we're going to talk about here today, but the videos are also brought to you by the books that we make. Coming soon is Jim Rugg's Street Angel Princess of Poverty. Great companion piece to go along with Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, and it collects all of Jim's earliest Street Angel adventures. You get both volumes. You have every Street Angel comic that has been created to date. Right now he has Hulk Grand Design on the stands right now. Plain Jane's is out there, and you can find Jim Rugg's name on any number of comics if you look long and hard enough. Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus is coming in 2023. Scoop that thing up if you can find it. It's going to be 500 plus pages of comics material and art. It has 140 pages of art and text that is not in any of the 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree that are out there right now. Put in your pre-order at my link tree in the description below. There are 3 volumes of X-Men Grand Design out there. 2 volumes of Red Room trade paperback are out there on the stands, and we're offering a new round of Red Room comics. This is Crypto Killers #1, which your store can order for May. This is the cover of the newsstand edition. Peach Momoko, the cottage industry, has supplied us with a fantastic cover. Jim Rugg, my ringer, had his variant cover by way of Rob Liefeld. We have a sketch cover that everybody can order. Man, we've been getting asked about that a whole bunch. We'll make your dreams come true. Make sure you tag us in the art that gets placed on those covers. And here is the Eddie P variant for Red Room Crypto Killers. Support our books. Keep the videos coming to you on a regular basis. And without further ado, let's take a look at Americonics Special #1, Sentinels of Justice, where we pair up a Blue Beetle, Captain Atom, Nightshade, and Question into a team. This is Watchmen before Watchmen, is what maybe we'll call this video or something, Jimmy. A fascinating document that I discovered just while digging. It's the kind of thing, it's the reason why you dig in the dollar bins and the quarter bins, to unearth some weird gems like this.
I had never heard of this before you brought it up this week.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely this is not a book that is discussed, is widely known. You mentioned, these characters very much the Steve Ditko wing of like the Charlton heroes. I even think they're trying to kind of channel some of the Ditko art.
Yeah.
The cover maybe not to the max, but when you get inside, I think there's a lot of Ditko they're trying to put on those pages.
Absolutely, man. Probably the first AC comic that we have looked at on the channel, Bill Black's company. And it's really fun to think about this in context of Watchmen. From 1983 is when this comic comes out. And AC Comics, Bill Black, very much rooted in comic book fandom and early fanzines, and his entire enterprise is nostalgic in its subject matters. No interest at all in advancing the medium in any way or pushing the comics medium into the next level of adult comics or anything like that. It's purely indulging in Silver Age, Golden Age type fare. That's his interest. He's putting his money where his mouth is. It's the kind of comics he wants to read, and Marvel DC is not keeping pace with that. They are continuing to evolve. It's not really his interest, man. So he puts his money down on the table and publishes a giant long wing of comics that maybe still come out.
I think that they do. I don't know if Bill Black is still alive.
Sure.
Because he goes back into the early 70s of self-publishing, starting with Paragon Press. I'm glad that we get a chance to finally talk about him, because that's the thing. He's doing color independent comics when nobody's doing color. This is 1983, I think. So think about that at home whenever we think 1983, you're going black and white if you're going to self-publish. Not Bill Black. Yeah. He's got a whole line of color comics. You mentioned nostalgia, and he would do a lot of public domain characters.
Right.
Worked out a deal when Charlton goes under to use their characters. But he has a wide range of stuff, and it's definitely centered on the past, or it's bad girl stuff. Femforce would be the long-running title. Well over 100 issues of Femforce have been published. So it is interesting, and we look at a lot of indie comics.
I would love to know more about AC Comics and how they kept the lights on for decades. And there's a bunch of artists that come through here that get work. Eric Larson has work in AC Comics very early on in his career. So, like, interesting publisher, you know, it's strange, weird that they exist, and weird that they exist. Like, if you think people don't talk about Charlton Comics much, nobody has ever mentioned AC Comics to me. No. Nobody wants to talk about Bill Black and AC Comics, and yet they've been publishing for decades.
Yes, I think their whole audience was of a similar mindset with Bill Black, and they were not interested in, you know, at this point, like where we are now, 2023. You have, like, a wing of comic fans that is like, no, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. It's not this character. Mm-hmm. Superman ain't gay. Fuck you for that. Like, all that kind of stuff. Like, that's the fanboy conversation now. And some of those dudes make comics.
Right.
And they're trying to capture that same spirit of the kind of comics that they dig.
Bronze Age.
Sure. Yeah. In these days, 84, 85, whatever, you got the old heads who were like, my Spider-Man does not have a black costume.
Right.
My Captain Marvel isn't some black chick or whatever. And so they're going to, like, do their thing. And I think that this served, like, people who were looking for more of the same. You know, that little, like, fucking dopamine, childlike quality, the feelings that they got when they were safe and at home with mama. That's these kind of comics.
Interesting note on a credit. So, script and art are Greg Guler, not a name that I notice, but the script and art together is why I point that out. Matt Fiesel, who does, like, stick figures, Cynical Man, doing backgrounds, just being credited as backgrounds is almost a throwback to, like, whenever you'd go back to the early shops in the Golden Age, and that'd be like where you'd start out. You're a new guy in the shop. You're doing backgrounds. You'll learn this business. So it's kind of funny to see that. We've already mentioned Ditko a few times. This is almost traced from a Ditko drawing.
Yeah, and I think it's Spider-Man. That I think is
just draw a little web in there. You should draw a web in his hand for future whoever ends up with this book.
Right. So, you know, one of the things when you have intellectual property, there are several schools of thought with it, man. It can, if it's not out in the wild, you're sitting on a dead asset. You know, you're sitting on something that's not generating anything. So if an AC Comics comes around and Charlton is all but done, do a handshake deal real quick, man. Yeah, go ahead, because it's better to at least have it out in the consciousness, have people think about it, than to just have nothing.
That's right.
And I think that might be the spirit that this book was kind of created in, where it's a quick handshake deal, because clearly they wanted to take it places, and it doesn't go there.
It is such a different mentality, too. Like, we think now about, like, creative integrity, creator ownership, all of these kinds of ideas. And you look back to this, and it's Charlton was notorious for paying nothing but allowing their artists to do whatever. So they want to make a buck. And then, you flip it over to AC Comics, and it's like he's reprinting public domain characters and stuff like that. Like, this is completely, this is commercial. This is commercial comics. You know, like we pretend that's a bad word now, and we don't say that in the forefront of decision making, but that's what is on display in this book.
Yeah, totally. And one of the pieces that I like is, like,
this could be a panel out of Watchmen, by the way.
It's beautiful. It's like super well drawn.
It's pretty good. Like, the craft of this is pretty good.
Yeah, in terms of the writing, though, it is just a Silver Age type comic, and that is a fun lens to look at this thing, because it is everything that Watchmen is not. Is this comic. It is an indulgence in the sort of silliness and idiocy of a Silver Age comic, with all that entails. You know, you got your bad guys who need some big MacGuffin to take over the world or whatever, and then the superheroes have to sort of come together to save the day. There's nothing special happening. This pushes nothing further. It doesn't explore the comic medium in any way. These are people who like comics, who are making a classic type comic. They have a better facility than fanzine artists and stuff, but it is just another comic with the same exact ingredients that the chefs of, like, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons took and kind of pushed the medium into another direction.
Yeah, and the craft is kind of highish, at least in the art side. Like, I feel like this panel is a really nice panel with that angle for the, instead of just having that building straight up and down. Yeah. I think this is hilarious. I love this panel. I don't know that it's a good panel, but I love it. Very, very entertaining to me. This panel, on the other hand, this one, I mean, that could go, you could cut that out and put it in Watchmen, I think.
Yeah.
It feels like that. But you're right, like the flavor of this style of comic, like if you pulled out a comic now, we've been looking at some newer stuff from the 2000s, it is such a different approach than what you have here, where like angles are all over. This, to me, feels like it could be a Watchmen comic. Even the color in some of these panels goes that direction. But that kind of like dense, like we've got a bunch of characters, we've got some background, we're tipping our camera one angle or another. Almost none of that stuff is the way comics are really done today. Comics don't look like this.
No, exactly. But they did look like it in the 60s. And that's what AC Comics at this level was about. Like, you would see Charlton covers where Ditko has kind of drawn this exact sort of energy and all that sort of thing. So rather than even be contemporary, like, this is a throwback to 15, 20 years prior. An indulgence in the early fandom of comics.
I do see hints of certain stuff, like John Byrne, for instance.
Yeah,
I feel like there are little hints of that.
And that's
maybe
Charlton.
A face. Yeah, that's right. He worked there. Man, everybody I feel like worked there at some point.
I got a bunch of those Charlton Doomsday comics.
It'd be funny to compare those to like the Fantagraphics Doomsday reprints.
I have those also.
Because those Charlton, like, they own their own presses, and man, were they just printing as cheap and fast as they could.
I have two versions. I have a couple Charlton issues, and I have a couple modern. And it's when it gets to modern where like the bottom of the pages have the like newspaper, like the triangle, like like the paper bag.
Yeah,
kinda.
cut off of a web press.
Yeah,
cut off of a big long roll of newsprint.
Just a fascinating thing. So, like I came across this in the dollar bin, and I never, when you're digging, I just saw something that looked reasonably professional. So it's like, let me check that out, and then I see it's an AC comic with the fucking Watchmen characters.
Wild. Yeah,
as a team. They were never a team in Charlton. They all had their own books, all done by Steve Ditko, by the way. He would do 3 books. In the editorial piece up front, they were talking about like the Captain Atom comics, done by this guy who just never plays with superheroes, Steve Ditko, and so he got his superhero chops down.
I love this character. It feels like it could be out of like Superpowers or something.
Totally.
Even like, where's the toy for this guy?
Yeah, for sure. There are panels in this thing where like I almost feel like he's like Axel Press Button. Like right here, does that almost look like Axel Press, like where he would have a gun hand?
You know what else I'm noticing is how much these figures. Rarely are any of these figures just standing around.
Sure.
And even if they are, it's like Dutch angle that camera.
Yeah.
Get these guys at an angle. But man, as they bounce around and fall and punch and stuff, like they're all over the place. It's very dynamic in that way.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Ditko's drawing all of these characters. We have a video on the Charlton Action Heroes, which DC reprinted in a couple of nice hardcover volumes in their like archive series, because there were so many of those Ditko comics. So those were always the interesting DC archives to track down for me.
You're right.
Were those action heroes.
And this is the really cool part of this. So first off, you got your team. They're all together, man. The Sentinels of Justice. Even that's like such an old school kind of name. And then right here, it ends on the cliffhanger. Who is this shrouded figure who vows to destroy the Sentinels? Alas, we will never know, because the Charlton characters have been sold to another publisher. And see, they're keeping kayfabe. They're not giving any props to any other publishers, not going to put their name in their own publication. But you will be seeing much more of the talented team of Greg Goulart, Dan St. John. They would do our Sentinels of Justice, and there would be all these like Charlton adjacent characters, almost in the same way as Watchmen.
Yes.
like there's like some like Wasp lady or something.
You know what? I never even considered that. That's another one of those almost like an alternative Earth version of Watchmen. Right. I like this kind of stuff, like where it's like the computer screen breaking down.
Yeah.
Like the early representations of like
8-bit. Yeah, that's super funny stuff. And all these names, we would like to thank editors George Wildman, Bill Pearson, and Charlton Publications. Like, these are names that are firmly attached to early comics fandom. Bill Pearson might even show up in those Russ Cochran EC hardcovers at times and stuff. While Bill Black was part of the game at that point. But dude, this is a caption calling attention to the fact that DC just bought these characters. You can find early issues of Comics Journal and Amazing Heroes, where all the way back to 84, there is mention of a book called The Watchmen that Alan Moore proposed to DC Comics, and you know, they're putting pen to paper, and it takes a couple of years to draw that thing and get it across. So I feel like it happens really rapidly after this.
By the way, Sentinels and Watchmen, synonymous, right?
Right.
Makes you wonder if he's pulling that. Is this a Whitman logo on the back? Is that Whitman Publications behind them?
These buildings are almost like Gibbons buildings in Watchmen, by the way.
It's a really interesting fit. I gotta say that.
One, you know, and one last thing, man. It is the reason why you dig in the bins.
Yeah, and you'll see a couple of these signatures. Like, this is all Bill Black. So he wasn't just, you know, publishing these comics. He was a cartoonist how he started. You know, self-publishing, I think, was reluctant, because I'm interested in some of his early self-published stuff. And I think he ended up self-publishing because some publishing option fell through.
Right.
But you'll see him, you know, like he is a cartoonist at this point, you know, getting a little bit older, but still you'll see him sometimes inking or sometimes doing some part of the creative.
I do wonder if we got a June Bridgman piece right here.
Yeah.
We got a Bob McLeod piece right here. And there are scams that fucking people pull on people at conventions where they get them to like draw a picture of their character, and so you pay $100 or something. Then you get some schmuck to ink it, or you ink it or something, then you publish it in a book without the creator having any knowledge. I do wonder if this is like that. Because these are established professionals. I don't know if June was in the game right then, but Bob McLeod, I mean, he's working on New Mutants and things.
It's so John Byrne-esque from this angle, the McLeod stuff, and then I think, well, yeah, McLeod inked some Byrne, you know, like it makes sense. I think this is actually really nice. I like that, like the Kirby spackle, and there's some detail in that starburst. I'm a fan of that one. I don't know if there's Will Blyberg, I guess.
Yeah.
But even that lettering is Mike Royer-esque in the shape, you know, like the Fourth World letter boxes style.
These are fanboys.
This is other stuff that they were doing, and if you look close, Paul Galassi on some of these covers, and again, these are all full-color books in 1983.
You got goddamn Pat Broderick, man, a guy who was doing Charlton comics and things.
Yeah. Must have maybe been that first wave of like direct market alternatives to Marvel DC or something that floated this company, because I think these companies that last decades, it's often something spikes.
Sure.
Like they find some way that they make a bunch of money, and it's almost like that casts that shadow that allows them to go on for a long time. And who knows, maybe they, you know, popped up again in the 90s with the Bad Girl stuff. Maybe they had a reprint that really was you know, underwrote a lot of this stuff. I don't know.
When we did our first couple Pittsburgh Comic-Cons, I remember, like, probably our worst one, probably the last one that we did, we had a whole kind of aisle to ourselves because people were less and less even participating in that, certainly after some certain big news came out. So we had a table, you, me, a couple other people. They just gave us a table, like, and we were so new in the game that we didn't even, like, we needed maybe 5 people to populate a table surface of materials. And directly across from us was the AC Comics guy. It wasn't Bill Black. It was just some toady or something. And it was Femforce and things like that he was pimping out. I think I saw issue 100 of something. And just nothing. Just no biters. Crickets on our whole island. We were going nuts. Those early days, man.
You know what else I was going to say? Like you mentioned about like the scam of getting an artist to do a commission or something, and then you end up publishing it.
Yeah.
That also goes back to fandom. Like you would get zine covers that way, and fanzine covers, you know, back in the day, sometimes with consent, because Ditko would do some.
Yeah.
But also like the people that were doing it, like mimeographs and stuff, would then trace over that art to have like the Ditko cover. So it's not even exactly drawn by him. It's almost like mimeograph inked by some fanzine publisher.
Right. Yeah. With a stylus into a gelatin surface.
That's an impressive piece, isn't it?
Yeah, and this Blyberg, I know him from a lot of places back in those days. Maybe some of it was AC Comics, but probably some First Comics, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But always of this kind of caliber. Maybe is he? Was there an uncle called Professor Om? Something like that. It's that kind of style.
I have like an Alms Law book.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. But it's just interesting because you don't know what names you're going to see as you flip through there. Like I said, some of the first ones I bought were the Galassi covers of some of this stuff. So they're an interesting company. Probably not the last time we'll talk about them here.
Got to figure out the angles, man.
Yeah.
Good to go?
Yep.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell. Will notify you when new vids are available. And the King Kayfabers who support our Patreon are getting first dibs on all the videos that we have. They're watching us record this video live, and I bet you there are some Sentinels of Justice Americonics Special #1s that have just sold off of eBay and elsewhere. But the vids are brought to you by the books that we make, and on the stands in the very near future is going to be Red Room Crypto Killers issue #1. This is your newsstand cover, the Eddie P variant, sketch cover variant, Jimmy's contribution by way of Uncle Rob Liefeld, and Peach Momoko, the cottage industry, with her fantastic variant cover. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit's the name of the game. There are 2 volumes of Red Room out there right now. All stories self-contained, but support the comic. Scoop them up. I have Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus that is forthcoming also. 500 plus pages of Hip Hop Family Tree comics and art, and 140 of those pages are not in the original 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree. 3 volumes X-Men Grand Design and WYSIWYG are out there. Jimmy has Street Angel Princess of Poverty coming to the newsstands reasonably soon. It's going to collect all... Oh, no, you did this part.
Let me take over.
Hey, Jimmy, what do you got coming out?
My latest books, Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, are all available wherever books are bought and sold. My next book, Street Angel Princess of Poverty, will be out from Image Comics later this spring. You can pre-order that one now. It collects all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Deadliest Girl Alive. So complete your Street Angel set and pre-order that one at your local comic shop. And join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can download out-of-print zines and minis to see a lot more of my comics and art, and see the next comics that I'm working on starting in April.
What else do we have going on out there, man?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, mugs, stickers, and more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
Given those marching orders, Jimmy, will be on our way.
Read more comics.
What time we got?
2:20.
And we start at 4. So we got plenty of time. With the setup right now, I feel like we should just do the Spawn thing.
Okay.
Now, what I would ask is, for you, we need your phone to, like, go into the texts and download those 3 or 4 texts I sent you regarding Spawn.
Okay.
And we're going to need you to read those, like, at certain times.
Got him.
Great. So let me grab some Spawns. And, like...
What issue of Wizard is that? I want to look up if they have a shipping date on it. Man, I am not going to be able to find that.
A shipping date?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's a couple of months, it's at least a month before the cover date.
Yeah. It's probably like 2 or 3 months before.
Could be. Let me just see if I can grab my first couple issues.
You guys watching, see if you can look up the on sale date for Wizard #4. It's a December month, cover month, but would have been on sale, I don't know what, 2 months before that or something like that. See if, I don't know where to find that, but if anybody at home can find that, put it in the comments. No, I understand it's a December. The month on the cover is December, but when was it actually, like, that stuff, what's printed on the cover, the magazines are usually sold like 2 months in advance of that on, or sold ahead of time. I've got July is the issue 1 release for 91, which would put us at August, September, October for an issue 4 if it was monthly.
Well, what month?
I think October.
That would kind of check out.
Yeah, 2 months ahead is about right, I think.
I think the way that I'll sell it, because I can't just find my spawns right at this moment, I'll just sit on this. And then we'll do the big reveal at the end. And just for fun, here's where we're at with things. It's still 6 months before Image is announced.
Because they've got stuff in here as March 92 was the first printed image.
Yeah, it's months later.
I remember whenever we came across this the first time and we were beside ourselves.
Yeah.
Because, right, we're not talking about a week's difference.
Right. All right, shipping this for the month of November. So that's still more indication that this is way earlier than what they're suggesting.
Yeah, I'm going to say October.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, obvious. Because, like, look, comic scheduled to ship the week of November 5th. So that's future tense, man. Mm-hmm. That's still October. Top 10 books.
Boy, it's crazy to look at this now.
I know, right? We should almost start over, right?
That would be funny. That'd be really funny to, like, whoever's invested in, like, the later issues whenever we cut out at, like, 75.
Right.
Somebody asks, wait, why the hell does Wizard issue 1 go for 100 plus? Cartoonist Kayfabe.
Right.
that stuff used to go in the dumpster. This is wild stuff.
Right.
This is good. I can't believe this comic shop news. The high price, $120. Ridiculous.
Yeah, we're gonna be pumping up the price of something in when we put this video out. Yeah, I'm real inspired by Jimmy and I did that video with Eastman and Laird, and we got them to dish and talk about that Marvel comic interest. And it got picked up in at least 2 places. It got picked up on Bleeding Cool, and it got picked up on comicbook.com, and as like a news item and stuff. And that's what got me thinking, like, Jimmy, I think we got another news item video in the mix. Like, we weren't planning for that to happen, but to me, this feels newsworthy.
How about them using McFarlane art?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's what you're going to do.
You got them all, dude. You got a little Tex, a little Jim Lee. And seductive. It's funny what passes for like pretty girl art. It ain't no Dave Stevens right there.
No, it is not.
Fuck it. So you got all that stuff, and I'll edit it as needed, but like try to do it in like a perfect order. And
yeah, you want to go reverse order?
What would that be?
We'll start with Rust number 1.
Great, yeah.
Because that's the latest out of the run that you have here, and then I'll go back through and be like, but a month before that.
Yes, because all of these have been mistaken for being the number 1. All of these have, like, Rust has, because, like, the artist on that shit was like, "Hey guys, don't say nothing." Yeah, we got this. We got this shit, man.
Hey, I recently added the Rust that Jim Mahfood and Mike Huddlestone did. You know, like their first book when they were in college.
Right, that's sick.
All right, you ready?
Yes, sir. Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piskor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
Vids are brought to you by our Patreon. Support us at the link in the description below. And if you're at the King Kayfabe level, you're getting all the videos before anybody else. You're mitigating the Kayfabe effect. You're able to watch us stream live while we do our recording sessions. And you're able to scoop up the books we talk about before anybody else. And we might tip the scales of the comics market with this very episode right here, man, because we have found a new first appearance that supersedes all other first appearances, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody notices it in a lot of the sort of trusted figures in comics collecting who tell you what the first appearance of this or that is. Everybody got it wrong. We have it right, and we're going to give you the scoop. But buy our books. We are working cartoonists, and we have a wide bibliography of stuff. It keeps the videos coming out on a regular basis. Jimmy's going to have Street Angel Princess of Poverty coming to you from Image Comics within a couple of months from now. Good companion piece to Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive. And both books will comprise all of Jimmy's Street Angel comics. Hulk Grand Design is out there in the wild right now. Get that Treasury Edition comic. It is going fast, man. It's going to disappear sooner than later. And Plain Jane's is out there in the wild. I'm going to have the Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus coming to you in 2023. 500 plus pages of Hip Hop Family Tree comics with 140 pages of new materials out there. Red Room Crypto Killers is my next round of Red Room comics. This is the cover for issue number 1. Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit is the name of the game in Red Room. Bunch of flavors of issue 1 of Red Room coming out. This is my other variant cover. Peach Momoko did her variant piece the way that she does. Jimmy showing off in Liefeld fashion on his cover, and we do have a sketch cover for the next Red Room. Go talk to your comic shop. They'll be able to hook you up with these. 4 volumes Hip Hop Family Tree, 2 volumes Red Room are out there, 3 volumes X-Men Grand Design, and WYSIWYG. Now, without further ado, man, let's not bury the lead. What you were looking at right here is the first appearance of Spawn. We are looking at Wizard Magazine number 4. You see it in all of its glory right here. It's a proto version. He doesn't got the skull thing in the middle, doesn't got the chains really happen, doesn't got too much spikes happening either. And there are many different accounts of like what is the first appearance of Spawn, and accounts that are as what you may consider as insignificant as like an ad are on the record as being first appearances, but they are all dramatically wrong by maybe a half a year's worth.
Yeah, we're looking at a November 1991 cover date,
December.
December 1991 cover date, October 1991 on sale date.
Yes.
So October 1991 is your date to keep in mind on this, and let's go through some of the history of this stuff. For most of my life, it was Rust number 1.
Yes.
That's what we grew up with as being the first appearance of Spawn.
And that's super noteworthy, man, because this is not the first time we talked about this. We started our channel going through Wizard magazines, and when we did issue number 4, it crossed our mind that, hey, maybe this is really Spawn's first appearance. I think maybe, like, I'm not sure, we're going to have to take a look, but maybe McFarlane's still doing Spider-Man stuff or something? Like Jim Lee is definitely still on X-Men, because we're going to be talking about that within these pages and things. And when we did this episode, we tried to sell it as like, hey, we got Spawn's first appearance, but we had very few subscribers. And I think it was the artist of that Rust comic who was like, hey guys, don't say that stuff. People, it's the only way people are excited about my comic. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, if you're hanging your hat on somebody else's accomplishment for your comic, you're probably a cornball.
Yeah, so here's the date on the Rust number 1.
Yeah.
April 1992, which is 6 months after this. And even, it's noted that ad appeared in other places, like Evil Ernie number 5, which I had no idea that book was that far along at that date.
Yeah.
Reanimator number 2, Rocket Ranger. So there were some other books that had it, same ad, same month.
And you can find CGC comics that say first appearance of Spawn, Rust, whatever the fuck that number is, man. And then the Malibu Sun thing happens, because it's like chicken and egg. And it was a big promo piece for Malibu Comics. Malibu Sun is just kind of like a leaflet kind of thing that they put out to the various comic shops and shit. Here's what's going to be coming in the next quarter. And then that became the first appearance. You can find CGC shits of that and $1,000 copies CGC'd of this Malibu Sun thing.
Yeah, think of how wild it is that these used to be like sought after books based on there's an ad in there,
right?
That we call the first appearance. But let's go back even before Rust #1. There were a couple of books that came out in March 1992 that both featured Spawn ads. One from Malibu, one from Eternity, which was a subsidy of Malibu Comics at the time. So Malibu was putting out Image. That's how you get those Image ads in these early Malibu comics. Torg #2 from Malibu, not a book I'm familiar with, and Robotech 2 The Sentinels, book 2 number 13. Boy, that's a mouthful of numbers. That's like doing math homework. But those are March 1992. They both contain ads. We can go back to February 1992. There is an up-and-coming magazine, number 15. This feels like one of those things of like you say, kind of like trade journals kind of stuff, fanzine kind of stuff. The other one is Comic Shop News, number 242. Those are both February 1992 releases, and they have information about Spawn in those. One is just this video guide, but it is noted, as a collector's item for that purpose. So
what's the release date on the video guide? Does it say?
The mailing date is February 3rd, 1992.
Still, 5 months after the true first appearance of Spawn, which is Wizard Magazine number 4. As of this recording, very cheap on the aftermarket. You could get it pretty easy on eBay, Amazon, and places like that. But CGC, what's up? Like, I've seen at least 3 different versions of CGC comics that call themselves the first appearance of Spawn. And we're looking at that Key Collectors app, and they start to like break it down where, it's the first color appearance. It's the first this appearance, first that appearance. But you're still all fugazi, because we just randomly unearthed demonstrable evidence that CGC is wrong, these apps are wrong, and furthermore, Wizard number 4 is never even mentioned in on these apps or in these guides. Noteworthy, certainly with where the Key Collectors app comes into the mix, because it will cite issues of Amazing Heroes that have pumped up prices that people are collecting for the first appearances of Spider-Man Black Costume, New Mutants, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which supersede the comics buyer's guide ads. So these are things that people do collect and are on the hunt for. So if you are looking for the true first appearance of Spawn, it is on the record, man. It is at least 5-6 months before any other recorded first appearance.
Worth mentioning, because I've seen it come up, is this video, right?
Yeah.
It's on the cover of this video. When's this video come out? December 1991. So I don't know how advanced that is. How you see like the publication date.
Yeah.
If it would have been a little bit earlier, but even if it's a little bit earlier, it's still coming after October.
Right.
So I think this is, look, the challenge is out there. We have found a Spawn appearance that predates any other known Spawn appearance by 2 months. Can you beat it? October 1991, Spawn's first appearance.
There it
Get
is,
one
man.
order than October 1991.
Crack open your Rust.
And by the way, no incentive here.
No.
I'm not grading your comics and stamping them or sealing them in Lucite.
But it is making fun of the fact that CGC ain't infallible.
Yes. All you got to do is fool the expert. Once the expert class came into being, you only had to fool a couple people.
Yep. And you will see these CGC things, man. Malibu Sun's $2,000, $3,000 on eBay. When some of you guys are sitting on the real first appearance of Spawn, and your back issue bins ain't even thinking twice about it.
Yeah, send Garib a thank you card if that's you.
Just a little noteworthy piece of comics history from the era in which we grew up in. And super happy to point out that CGC did wrong.
I do worry a little bit about the seismic ramifications of this going through the comics industry when the video drops.
Crack open your CGC issues of Rust, man. They're worthless.
read Rust #1.
Good to go?
I am.
Kayfabers, like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. join our Patreon at the link in the description below this video, and you will be able to get all of these videos before anybody else. Man, you're going to be able to scoop up those cheap copies of Wizard number 4. But the vids are brought to you by the books that we make. So Jimmy, tell the people what you have.
Hulk, Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive are all available right now. Street Angel Princess of Poverty will be out later this spring from Image Comics. You can pre-order that one right now. It collects all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, so the two together make a complete set. You want to add that to your collection. You can also follow me at patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see more of my comics and art, download out-of-print zines and mini-comics, and see the next comics that I am working on starting in April.
Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus hitting the stores in 2023. It is going to collect all of the material in the first 4 big volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree, but there's going to be 140 pages of extras to go in that 500 plus page book hardcover. Go get your hands on that thing. Put in your pre-orders right now today. You will not be sorry that you're going to put this comic on your shelf. It's going to be a heavy one, size of a phone book. There are 4 existing volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree. 2 volumes of Red Room are out there right now, but Crypto Killers, the next round of Red Room comics, is being offered to your store, and you can put in your orders and pre-orders for those right now. 5 beautiful covers, one by Jimmy, one by Peach, a couple by me, and a sketch cover. 3 volumes X-Men Grand Design, and WYSIWYG is out there. Support our books, keep these videos rocking on the daily. Jimmy, tell the people what else we got going on.
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts, merchandise, hats, mugs, stickers, fanny packs, and more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
Another great way to support the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel. Give them those marching orders, Jimmy. Will be on our way.
Read more comics.
Boom. There it is, guys. Go get your Wizard number 4. It's what the Batman's on the cover.
Yeah, pay for that patron subscription by investing in Wizard Magazine number 4.
I saw there was a lot of $5 ones up on the thing. You know the one, I forgot this, but I was looking through my shit, and I'm like, oh, I don't got a Wizard 5. Like, did Jimmy take home my Wizard 5 or something? And I never had it. You had it, and we spent, like, you brought it one week, and I read it the next week. And for some reason, it's going for a lot. Yeah, I don't think the print run was very giant on that. But like, this is pretty cheap. But that Wizard 5 is.
I really do think that like Marvel and DC, I feel like they didn't really care about Wizard.
No.
And it's whenever Image gets announced, and I think the Image dudes want to do promo and stuff.
Yeah.
And they just, between them and Wizard, it was like that was the Wizard rocket ship, I think.
Yeah, because that issue 10, I mean, I told you, like, I got these, like, a 25 pack. It was like a blister pack. And it had a Wizard 10, and it had 24 comics or 25 comics. And it was demonstrating to you that if you add up the value of all the comics the Wizard, you just made money.
You made money. That's how it works.
When do you ever go to KB Toys, buy something, and actually make money for yourself?
That's how we all knew it was a scam.
Not 10-year-olds.
Yeah, the question was, where do you find the person that pays those Wizard price guide prices?
Right.
I've got my collection of 24 books.
Yeah, and you know who it is, man? It was my fucking pops. Like, he would be on the road thinking he's going to do a nice thing for me and stuff. Which, and he was doing a nice thing for me. But, like, he met Sylvester, like, he was just out of town. And, like, went to a comic convention, saw that was happening. Maybe in the same hotel that he was staying at or something. Just, like, randomly. And went to the convention and came back with, 10 books. And got Sylvester to sign some Cyber Forces and the like a Wildstorm like picture book kind of perfect bound pinup book, and then some Scott McDaniels like the first appearance of the Transformer outfit or whatever. Got those signed and shit, and he's like, yeah, these are real expensive. It cost me $70 for these 9 comics or something. It's like, oh man, they took advantage of my pops.
Yeah, they took advantage of a lot of people. Man, and everybody was like, was a mark. Because, man, I used to go to the garage, comic shop dealers out of their garage, and it would be like just volume of Valiants. And nobody wanted them. Nobody wanted them the day they were released, let alone It's just that shooter era of Valiant that was anything.
Yeah,
and once
sure.
those numbers became respectable, it was like there's nothing here. Like,
Can we tell before we record this next one, man? Could we tell the Kayfabers a story from our Comics Pro 2023 after our keynote and stuff, where, and we're still trying to get this video from our keynote, because it was recorded and they say that like we're able to post it. So when we get it, we'll post it up. But in that keynote, I was making fun of Wizard, talking about how it was shit, but me and Jimmy got hold of it and sort of really started the channel snowball thanks to Wizard. So the thesis was like, there's gold in them thar hills. And then we were talking I made mention of like, how you guys, because we're talking to all store owners, how you guys get some enterprising person coming in with their whole collection thinking that they're gonna strike it rich, but it's all those Valiant number ones. And then we go back to our round table to do our speed dating with all the shop owners and stuff. And some dude came up to us and was like, you guys really made fun of me on your keynote. You made fun, like, you caught me like 3 different ways, because like I got into this business through Wizard from venture capital, he said, and then I became the such and such at Valiant in the earliest days, blah blah blah. So just know that when you say something, like the people that you talk about might be in the room. And I'm like, so what? like what do I care, man? And like when you tell me that you come into the game from venture capital, you're already telling me that you don't care about comics in the way that I do. You're already telling me that you're looking at it as a hustle. Fuck you. You know what I mean? And then to like, your credits are Wizard and Valiant by way of venture capital. You could kiss my asshole, dude. I don't care about you, and you're a clown.
It speaks to comics that this guy, you would think like, how many jobs do you get in comics where it's like that's your resume? Like, at some point, don't you get shown the door? It's not exactly running well these days.
Yeah.
Not the best institutions.
Yeah, just like super corny.
It's such a...
but he's like going to teach us a
almost
lesson.
Pyramid, like, if you've got a pyramid scheme, this is your dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. But, hey, man, you're right. It does talk about comics. There's a lot of that in comics.
A lot of what?
These people that are just not... They almost can't even see that what you did wasn't a good thing. You didn't contribute to this. It wasn't successful because you started out with somebody else's money and thought you would fleece a bunch of kids.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're coming up and saying to us.
Yeah.
Gleefully.
There was this...
you nearly ruined this industry, dude.
Right.
Yeah,
we're going to respect you. Suck the balls, man. There was this other dude. I'm just not going to say his name because I think he's still in the game. I just ain't looking for the hassle. But it was when Todd... Dude came in for one of Todd's conventions, and I was talking to him. I don't think we had Kayfabe started up, but Todd might have still had those Youngblood 3s, and this dude had 30,000 copies of Youngblood number 3 palletfuls of, like, I guess 10,000 apiece. And we were talking about, like, how cool would it be to, like, get a pallet of them and then, like, tip in, like, staple in our own covers.
Yeah.
Remember?
I remember
Like,
that. I remember that
like,
dream. We were all going to do one. It'd be inside, outside. We could put them together, like, half and half.
Right. And I mentioned it to this dude, and he's like, well, first off, that would be illegal. And I'm like, what? Like, and he was like, that would be unethical. And then he was going on this whole thing about telling me how he rejects people who have tables at conventions but draw pinups of characters that they don't own. Like, if they have prints and stuff of, like, a character that they don't own, how, like, he will wholesale will not talk to them. And at that time, I guess John Nee became the publisher or something of Marvel, and he's like, and he's going to clean house, man. He ain't going to put up with none of that kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. And then just as I'm talking to him, I'm like, this guy's a fucking blowhard fucking loser, man. and he talked about how like he got into comics, and he was taking his nephews to go get shit signed by Rob Liefeld, and the 3 people in front of them, him and his nephews, all got jobs with Rob in front of his face, inkers. And then when he gets up there, he's like, hey, I can use a job. And Rob's like, can you write a press release? And he was like, I can. And so like Rob just hired him on the spot, like without seeing anything. Dude, still in comics, got into the shit in the most impure fucking business ways. And so like when we're talking about like art craft stuff, he's like, oh, that would be highly illegal. And he looked like such a fucking Peckerwood loser. Like I wanted to lay him the fuck out.
Highly illegal.
He was in Pittsburgh once, man. He was talking about how he got the Pittsburgh treatment too, at a club and shit. Like was talking to some dude's girlfriend and was a pompous little jerk and got his fucking ass beat. And a couple of those extreme dudes got some good intimidation too, man. So you can't be coming with that fucking Orange County bullshit to Pittsburgh acting like a little punk, because you will get served, man. And he got his ass served. He said he got his ass beat by this chick's boyfriend.
I'll name him for you once we shut off the stream.
Yeah,
I think I know from that description who this person is.
Yeah, a little bitch.
Oh boy.
All right, dude. So with the setup that we have, there's a couple ways to do it. Maybe we'll do the commentary piece first, and then we'll look at our arts.
Okay.
For the Red Room cover, because we gotta change things anyhow. So I have it set up here. It shouldn't take that long to render it.
Very curious to see the process of this.
It's the same as when we do a commentary track, and then I'm going to stitch it into our bigger video. So this ain't no intros or nothing. It's like we're already into it. And I do think, but I do think that I might start the video out with it. I just don't know. So sit here. And what we're looking at is a video. Peach Momoko sent us her drawing process. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah, Peach Momoko sent us her like a what do you call that, man? Like a sped up version of her drawing the Red Room cover.
Yeah, time lapse.
Time lapse, yeah. So we're just gonna like Howard Cosell this stuff and just talk over it. It's a 3-minute piece, and it goes through all of the process, man. You see it turn into a full colored piece. You know, in the course of almost 4 minutes. So cool that they sent that, and her and Yo have been talking about like they would love to be on this channel again, and I would love to make that happen.
It's a really nice setup, the angle and stuff for the art.
Yeah, and it looks like. So no intros or nothing. We're just gonna stitch it in. And let me make sure I got the sound on these videos. Crazy thing happened last week when we did the manga video. I got no sound on the video, so I was able to use the fucking stream audio for that video. It saved the day.
Go talk to your comic shop.
Yep, got audio for both of these.
When do you we'll talk a little bit on the video before this plays, so we don't have to give any real context. Like you'll give context there, like
right.
Peach sent a video,
like
so
hey, let's check out this.
Here's the video and us talking over it.
Yeah, yeah. So thankful that Peach sent this video to us to show her process for how she drew this cover, because I showed it to you when we were doing some work last week, and there are things happening inside that mask and even around the eyes, and I'm just like, what tools did she use to do that? Couldn't even tell. She's using those Copic fine liners. I've been using those since the first time I went to Japan. I buy the gross now, and
How
they're
do
real
those
strong.
compare for you to a Micron?
When you erase, the black fidelity stays good. It goes on black. A Micron can be a little sepia, and the downside is that the ink stays a little wet, a little extra longer. But you will see over the course of this video, I guess they're waterproof.
Yeah, I'll say.
Because she is using a watercolor wash that we're going to see pretty soon on here. And to break in kayfabe, like we did a duo shade video. Mm-hmm. And I was going to draw a piece, you drew a piece. And by the time that I went to use a duotone on my work, it fucking bled the ink lines. I used that exact same pens, so the chemical of the duo shade reacted badly with the Copics, even though they are waterproof.
I'm shocked by this part that she's using such a fine pen to do almost filling in blacks.
Right.
The other thing I think of when I watch this video is, how do you know when you're done with something? That's a question a lot of times artists get, because like the black and white looks so good, it's wild.
Yeah, she knows it's going to be a cover. And she works in color. You see how it's bleeding over onto the mask? In the final version, you don't even see those bleeds. So this is that kind of thing that like maybe an amateur would get nervous. I love seeing the hair dryer to speed up the process, man, to get that watercolor dry. But you see, she puts that level of gray over top of the mask. You don't even notice that it bled into the mask area. Look at it come to life.
It's really interesting to see the color in the drying part, because we're going to see several rounds of that dryer, and you can see the paper shrink.
You can, yeah.
It tightens up.
You see a warp, and then it just kind of flattens down, almost like shrink wrap. Like, look, you see it happening right here. You see she has it taped down at the borders. The reason for that is so that it doesn't get all warped and stay that way.
Exactly. And here we see her with color pencil dry media going on top of it. That was the other thing I took away from this video, is how much different media she's putting onto that piece.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much is on the page.
Yeah. Look at how big it is. That's a big piece of art, man. She did a piece for that at Sushi Kaneko art show. And then she's going another round with the pen over top, hitting it with some white highlights.
Multiple white media, too. Like here we have a white pencil, looks like dry media, but we're going to see like there's wet white media. Yeah. Some kind of paint or white out of some sort.
Dude, we saw a second of headspace, a second of thought. She was looking at the piece. Some more white highlights on. She created this really ratty, ragged fur. Doesn't it look so good?
Yeah, a lot of work in that. That kind of stuff is hard. We often talk about that. Organic piles of things can be difficult, especially when the rest of it's so precise. Those white highlights, now she's adding the color to them to give them like the round studs. I think that stuff's really sharp on there.
Yeah. It's just mesmerizing. I'm so thankful that she sent this video to us to give a clue into her process. Did you see her Copic had the masking tape on it to let you know that it's an old one?
Oh yeah, that's one of those techniques you see a lot of artists use.
We'll just accept that. Let you know that it's an old one.
Oh yeah, that's one of those techniques you see a lot of artists use.
There it is. You see that? Masking tape on it to let you know that it's an old one.
Oh yeah, that's one of those techniques you see a lot of artists use.
Right? That's hard, right? I'm just going to render it real quick. And then stitch it into our other piece. We'll show off our covers. Talk about them a minute. We'll talk about the process of deconstructing Liefeld.
Oh man.
I asked Rob to join us within the next couple of weeks. He's checking a calendar. It might even be on my phone right now, the response.
Yeah, he was posting about some comic he's working on. He should have sent us Brigade stuff.
Yeah, I didn't get it. And you know what? I don't even know if I got paid.
I wonder if I got paid.
Yeah, I don't
I
remember.
wonder if that book's out. Maybe that book's not out. I think I saw one
Yeah,
somewhere.
I think it's out.
It's so weird to figure out how that stuff goes, though. Because where's he even releasing it? You know, like there's the mass release, but I think he does signature releases online that some third party fills. Probably that dude that was trying to get in LA that was like, I do like, all
Yeah.
my signature books.
Yeah, that I laugh at that guy, man, because I'm like, well, what's the cut? Oh, it's not about cuts. It's not about percentages, and it's like, oh, so you want us to promote your store, and the benefit that we get is that you fulfill the orders. The benefit that we get is that you do your job. So we're gonna make all the other stores in the country mad that we're promoting just you. Like that guy. There was a lot of snake oil that we were being sold. You know, I often think about, like, certainly with the hip hop stuff, and for sure with the channel, that I'm like at the perfect age for these different things to be in my life. The channel, the popularity of the hip hop comic and stuff, because I could have been taken advantage of pretty easy when I was young. I've been taken advantage of pretty easy. I did some free work when I was young. And scams like that, like, oh, we'll fulfill you mention our store, like we will fulfill those orders. You put a link to our thing, and we will make sure that they get it.
I hate working with anybody.
Like, yeah, what's in it for us again? Oh, it's not about percentages, he says. It's not about cuts. You don't get no cut. Jim, if you will grab your Youngblood cover, please.
Hey, have you looked through that Oracle book? Is it good?
Yeah, did you get a copy?
I took a copy that was sitting here.
Yeah.
I thought that was my copy.
Yeah, that was your copy. Yeah, that was your copy. It's just cool to have two, and you know, two independent people sent those at different times. So good.
Gotta have the image eye art.
Yeah. All right, so this has to not be there. Or maybe it can be, actually. Let me...
It doesn't need to be up there.
It could be. Yeah, you can put it back there if you like.
Somebody overheard me say... I thought I said that very quietly. I hate working with people. Somebody keyed on that.
Sure.
But it is tough for something like that, like fulfillment, because you're the one who hears about it if something isn't right.
Yeah.
That's even worse if you're working with somebody and you're dependent on them to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, no good. No good. But as far as I'm concerned, that gives you license to let them know when they're doing wrong. Like, yo, this is my name, motherfucker. We'll promote Street Angel up front, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe we could even put that right there. And then we'll just talk this stuff. I might put this vid out tomorrow because I think there's a press release going out.
Do you want to zoom a little? Like, fill up that screen with the artwork, right?
Yeah. Good if you are, Jim.
Yeah.
Welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name is Ed Piskor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
Going to be looking at the next round of Red Room comic covers. But first, got to let you guys know that we have a Patreon, and our biggest supporters get to watch us record these videos live, and the King Kayfabers get all the videos before anybody else, thus completely mitigating the Kayfabe effect. And they get hold of some pretty rare books before anybody else gets the opportunity to. But the videos are brought to you by the books that we make. We are working Cartoonist, and before your very eyes, man, you're looking at Street Angel Princess of Poverty coming to you within the next couple of months. It's going to be the perfect companion piece to Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive, and will comprise of the rest of the Street Angel comics that exist to this very day. You got to have both to have all the Street Angel comics. Jimmy's working on. Jimmy has Hulk Grand Design. Jimmy has Hulk Grand Design out in the wild. Plain Jane's is another comic book that Jim has out there right now. I have the Hip Hop Family Tree Omnibus coming to you in 2023. 500 plus pages of Hip Hop Family Tree comics. 140 of those pages are completely new for the collections. You do not see these pieces of art in the first 4 volumes of Hip Hop Family Tree. There are three volumes of X-Men Grand Design out there, 2 volumes of Red Room, and WYSIWYG is out there, and we are out now promoting Red Room Crypto Killers issue number 1. Your store can order these right now today. You're looking at my cover for the newsstand edition right here. And this is what the color version of that cover looks like. I like to keep the art pretty black and white. You see that the original art is missing the duotone layer, which I end up doing in the computer. People ask, is it done digitally? And it is, but the source material is the actual piece of duotone paper. Our guy is a cannibal. You see his dinner materials, man. It's dim sum or something, a bunch of little finger foods. And loosely based on the BTK killer, you could find photographs of the BTK. Some of the most eerie photographs of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, is when he ties himself up and puts on a wig and a dress and things. Halloween masks and stuff.
What are you inking that with, Ed?
It's all marker, man. It's all Copic fine liner. In fact, it's the same kind of Copic fine liner that we'll see Peach Momoko inking in quite short order. But when it comes to the Red Room comics, let me just take a look at one other variant real quick. This is one that I just recently put together. It's the Eddie P variant. I like to do 2 covers per volume. This is what the color version of that looks like, and we got the chains. We added some 3D elements, man. Like these chains get recessed thanks to the duotone, and we thought that it would be cool to get the logo to kind of weave in and out of the chains. Shouts to Justin, the designer, who sort of made that happen, because that was above my pay grade, man. But one of the things I was playing with when I was doing this illustration was I wanted to be a little bit more adventurous with lighting and just fucking dab down the shadow on the character from the chains. And, you kind of only have one try at that, because I didn't really pencil that part. Just hit it with the fattest fine liner and just drew those chain textures, try to communicate volume like on the nose, or there were parts where you have to have the shadow kind of go along when there are little cutouts missing, and you just have to have the balls, right? You just have to go in and fucking do it. Put the hooks on there, and this was like the scariest one. I'm imagining that's the shadow for this one, and putting it on the guy's face, because like all of it was already drawn. So then you don't want to white this out and try and redraw things, like that would be dicey, almost like just re-ink it all.
So you wing it with the shadow, like you draw this thing and you're looking at it and you're like, I should have those shadows cast on there.
Yeah.
Do you scan it before you put the shadows on?
I didn't.
That's the move, Yeah. Like all this risky stuff, I end up with like 3 or 4 scan versions if I'm trying something that you don't want to white out.
So smart, man. I've done that before, like with some explosions and stuff like that, where I'm going to be getting a little kinetic, not exactly know how it's all going to shake out. I've done that. I didn't do it on this one because it was not too big a deal. not too big a deal. So,
That's neat. That's a neat effect, the shadows.
so Jimmy's one of my ringers when it comes to this stuff. We do have a sketch cover that is available to anybody. You can order this, but we do have the retail incentive variants. And there's that Jim Rugg joint right here.
Also drew this all with markers.
Yeah.
Mostly microns.
Okay.
You know, I'm curious to try those Copic fine liners because it's not something I've drawn with.
Yes.
But most of this is all marker stuff too. Probably the one place where it might not be are some of the blacks, and that would have been like a Pentel brush pen.
Yeah,
you know, filling in blacks.
And you could get the Copic. The Copic M is the brush pen for those.
And this is probably the most time-consuming cover I've done for Red Room.
Yeah, you got, what, 5-6 characters?
Liefeld is much more complicated than I think people give him credit for. And maybe not all his covers are this complex, but with that many figures, it is pretty tough. I like some of this stuff, like making the chainsaw gun instead of like the chapel gun.
Heck of a scythe right here, man.
That fit really well. Although I look at this sometimes, and I'm hesitant to say it, but it's almost a Nike swoosh
Sure.
in the middle of your cover.
Yeah, man.
Something I'm sure they wouldn't appreciate. But otherwise, you know, it's sticking to that kind of layout. I come away with this stuff, like all the covers I've done so far have been books where I genuinely like this book or this creator or this cover or whatever. And same thing with this, you know, like Youngblood 1 was huge for me. Putting this together, it's almost like elevated my respect for what this cover is.
It happens like that way.
That many figures to be like dynamic and big and exciting and readable, really impressive to me on Liefeld's part. The other takeaway for me was the color stuff.
Yeah.
Because this is radical coloring for 1992. And, you know, the way I sample my colors is I literally scan the cover and build palettes. And I do this for all kind of stuff. I scan interior pages and build color that way. So, you know, the colors are based on that original cover, but it was still a matter of like matching up, like, where do you actually put these colors?
Right.
Because the characters aren't exactly the same as what's on Youngblood, so you don't get like a metal arm or something that, you know, pops out. And one of my big breakthroughs was making your clown red, the jumpsuit red. It started out as yellow. I did a different version. And once I made it red, it really made that character go back a little bit to allow this character to kind of separate. But that was a challenge.
I believe it. There are things you do, like this Brian Murray type color, where it's practical hand, and you have the highlights and stuff, which is pitch perfect to the original color. Is that just you on the Wacom kind of drawing these dabs in there?
I do that coloring. All that coloring was done on the Wacom. That's exactly how I did it. It makes me wonder how they did it. Like,
right.
Were they like...
Wacom's existed. Wacom's existed.
Yeah, I guess they were digital coloring, but it's such early days of digital coloring. Like, it's surprising to me that, in a weird way, like I'm doing the same thing now,
right?
30 years later.
And by soft, the edges are soft.
Yeah, the edges, right? Yeah,
of,
it'd be like
these circles.
A airbrush tool, probably. You know, back in the day, if they even went that far.
The other super noteworthy piece is this is that era of Rob Liefeld inking where there would be these like ink dabs. Mm-hmm. From like a marker, you know, he's not using dip pens necessarily on certain pieces, but like a dab like that is that drawn or is that natural? Because I see some other ones that might be just a consequence of the marker kind of bleeding a little bit, but some of them might be drawn. Like, is that drawn or is that just a flick? Did you?
I'll be honest, I can't remember to the point of saying exactly, but the dabs are something I'm conscious of
Yeah.
all the way back to 1992. Because I was copying Liefeld art back in the day, and I've said it before, that Comic Scene magazine that had Youngblood art in it and had black and white line art Youngblood art, I would notice that.
Right.
Because I was trying to figure out, like, what tools do they use? How do they do this? And so I was very conscious of that. Like, you do see a lot of those, if you look for them, a lot of those, like, heavy, the marker spot, the little bit of bleed where you held it on there,
yeah.
or you put the pen down there. And those are all, to some extent, intentional. Because you can make that line without having that mark.
Yes.
But I know those marks are on a bunch of that old stuff.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I wanted to have that mark in there because it's something I remember recognizing 30 years ago.
The amount of times you see Shaft's hair being used in various places, magnifique.
You know, you're doing an impression, right? This is the equivalent of a comedian doing an impression of somebody. What are the ticks that you can do? Curly hair is something that is hard to find in Rob Liefeld work. Like,
right.
I would go through those Youngbloods, the first couple of them, forward and backwards, looking for, like, how do I get this or that texture? And it's like, you got to work with what's in there if you want it to look like Liefeld. And that is the, that is the texture that you would see on Shaft's hair. And then it's like, apply it to all of these things, all the furry parts of the costumes and stuff. And just try to do the best you can to approximate it.
Jimmy is my consistent ringer. Fresh covers every single issue. And for the issue ones of each miniseries, Peach Momoko would show up bat and clean up. And she did the same with this round. I wanted to unveil... I'm going to do it this way. I wanted to unveil the Peach Momoko cover for this round of Red Room Comics. Here it is in all its glory. And when she sent the high-res file, she gave us a little bit of dessert with that meal, man. And she sent us a 3-minute or so time-lapse video showing the actual making of this cover. And I want to show that video to you guys right now. Then I'm going to blow this up and show all 5 covers.
Do you know if she did that title lettering or if that's something
She did
Fanta
not.
did?
Yeah, Fanta did that.
Interesting font.
Yeah, he tried a couple of things, but like the bubbliness just looked the cutest.
Yeah, there's something, I don't know, that heart head. Strange.
Yeah. So cool to see Peach in her element, drawing a fresh cover, all sorts of mixed media, and before your very eyes are the 5 flavors of Red Room Crypto Killers issue number 1 that your store can order for you right now today. The sketch cover can be ordered by anybody. The others are retail incentive variant covers. Talk to your local shop, see how you can get them, see how you can make it happen. And I want to thank everybody who has been supporting the project up to this point. I think we might be somewhere near 400,000 Red Room comics out in the universe. And I thank the Cartoonist Kayfabe audience in a very big way for making that happen. What else? How do we get out of here? But before we get out of here, Jimmy, I want you to drop a plug on what you have coming up and we can split.
Yeah, Hulk Grand Design, The Plain Janes, and Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive are out there and available right now. Street Angel, Princess of Poverty is my next book, coming out later this spring. You can pre-order it right now from Image Comics. Street Angel, Princess of Poverty collects all of the Street Angel comics that are not in Street Angel Deadliest Girl Alive. So no overlap between those 2 books, but a complete set if you get them both. And join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can download out-of-print zines and mini-comics, see a lot of my comics and art, and you can see what comics I am working on next.
2023 is going to be a big year for us here at Cartoonist Kayfabe, and I have a Hip Hop Family Tree collection coming out at the end of the year, but I need you to pre-order it early and heavy so that we know how many of these things to print over the next 6 months. 500 plus pages of Hip Hop Family Tree comics and art. 140 of those pages, more than 140 of those pages are not in the first 4 volumes of the Hip Hop Family Tree books, celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the comic, celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So put in your pre-orders today. When you go to the shop, talk Crypto Killers, ask them a little bit about the Hip Hop Family Tree omnibus so that they know they need to get their hands on it for the store. What else do we have out there, Jim?
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts and merch, hats, mugs, stickers, and lots more at our spread shop. That link is also under this video.
Fantastic way to support the channel. Give them those marching orders. We'll be on our way.
Make more comics.
Thank you so much, Jimmy.
Should be buy more comics.
Yeah. Yeah, someone called that one Peach Momoko's latest masterpiece. All right, guys, we're going to tear things down and prepare for Peter Chung. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments or whatever on this video in the Patreon. And we'll keep our eyes on that while we are chatting with the man. Got the Eon Flux soundtrack box set is sort of the impetus for the conversation, but I think we're going to talk a lot about the master classes he's doing on his own Patreon. So very excited to speak with him might have a good hour chat with the dude. I'm thinking of I'm thinking of showing the Jerome Cabanatan zine of the Ninja Turtles intro.
Yeah, that'd make a lot of sense.
Put that on there and see ask him what the assignment was. Yada yada. Without further ado, I think we're done, dude.
Yep.
I think we're done with the stream here. So, guys, thank you so much. You know how it goes. It's a little later today, so maybe 100% of our videos will not show up tonight.
Yeah,
But-
I can tell you mine probably won't.
And I will tell you that the Peter Chung will be the priority. That will be the first one. It's my edit for the big one. So that's the one I will work on first to get that up for you guys before anything else. I'm going to try to get all my vids up. But thank you guys for joining us, man. Give them those marching orders, Jim. We could split.